Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Kemau to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Bokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement.
Manyoko so we ya son anamu Ki agbani ba to we otomo ni o ya do mo si afiye ya o Amo manyoko so we ya son den be mu o ya Ki agbani ba to we otomo ni o ya do mo si afiye ya o Ki an se pa yanju o ki se pa yanju o Sapayanju ka o ma si apayanju o so si olele ya si olele o ya si olele lele o ya si olele yo si olele amo manyo ko so wi ya son dan be mu Ki agbani ba to we otomo ni o abiyan mi do mo si afiye ya o Ki an se payan diju o mama Ki an se payan diju o re son ke wo ki an ya ki an se payan ju o Ki an ye ri money mo re tole se ma bembe son bi Ki an ye ri money o e abatoni Passion même oh Kia we money More dollars ya ma memu pio abinyobe
Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to yet another edition of Tough Talking Thursday. My name is Dennis Jai and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to be looking at the road ahead of President Boakai. President-elect Boakai will soon be sworn into office, and we are looking ahead the challenges, the opportunities, and everything that he has to face. And we're going to be, there are many of them, but we're going to pick few of them tonight and talk about them. Number one, amidst the competing interest and pressure to do way better than we are government, how will he be forming his government? That's one thing that we're going to be looking at as the task ahead of Mr. Boakai. He himself said the cabinet minister or those he's going to bring in his government will be people of integrity, those who understand what it is when we say public service. Also, on the road ahead, we're going to be looking at accountability and transparency. In a recent interview, Mr. Boakai talked about asset declaration, he says, starting with himself. He wants to hold himself accountable and those that will be with him. He's going to audit the outgoing government, and he's going to do that with utmost transparency. We're going to look at that. How is he going to be auditing? Because those that are close to Mr. Boakai already saying that there are other things that they need to look at. For example, the We Are Small Business Pro Development Fund, the Jane Colley managed the Financial Ministry or the Finance Ministry Private Sector Development Initiative, the Robert L. Johnson 30 million direct investment in Liberia, the Mills June Poverty Doctor, that is 5 billion loan scheme, and a lot of things, right? So we're going to be looking at accountability and transparency. We'll look at all that. And last but definitely not the least, we're going to look at the national budget. Will there be enough money for President Boakai to pay civil servants, to clean the city, for instance, to be able to take care of the commitments that President we have made? Will there be money for free WIAC and maintaining the different parks that are being built around? Already we have the recast budget has been passed. We also have the draft national budget where the expenditure far exceeds. They're like 90 to 95% on current expense on salaries, let's put it that way. So these are all the challenges this account for the road ahead. Tonight, to discuss this, I have Mr. Thomas Kanner. He's a regular panelist here. He's our public financial management practitioner right here. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. Good to be back.
Let me welcome Mr. Dr. Abdullah Dukle, another regular panelist. He is a diplomat, a professor, a journalist, and many in between. Doc, welcome to the show. The sound there is having some problem. While we get that fixed, let me welcome Mr. Caleb Gonglo, the African Math Genius Project progenitor. He is a teacher. He eats, sleep, and drink statistics. Mr. Gonglo, welcome to the show.
My pleasure, Dennis.
Last and definitely not the least is our governance advisor, Mr. Admeke Salif. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. Let's do it.
Before we even begin tonight's topic, we got some breaking news here. Number one, there's been pardon for Brownie J. Samukai. So he was pardoned, kind of halfway pardoned before he was not going to jail, but he was still supposed to pay the money. President Weah said, let's forget about the money business. Everything on you is lifted. That's breaking news. Also, in breaking news, Councilor Gloria Musu Scott and 3 other family members have been found guilty of murder. Mr. Gonglo, that's the breaking news we have. What do you make of starting with Samukai?
Well, the thing about presidential pardon, which I'm not really a fan of that, it leaves a lot of room for doubt. In my mind, I think President Weah took the action because it was clear and was widely rumored that the incoming government was going to pardon Brownie and restore all his rights under the law, as though he never did anything, you know. So I don't know. I have not read the text of the pardon, because I think there was something when he was convicted, there was something in the law which caused him to lose his seat. Okay, so I don't know whether those rights were also restored, that as though he never did anything, that he can go back and contest in another election and come back to the Senate. I don't know whether those rights were also restored. I don't know. So until I read the detail, but ideally, I'm not.
But was he barred from ever contesting again?
I think there's something about
a felon would not run.
Yeah, I think there's something that
because just like other pardon, because there were
in fact that was because he was elected. The only thing that caused him to lose a seat was that law. There was something in the law that the Solicitor General talked about, and which I'm you know.
Are you asking whether he's going to go back to take that seat?
No, not that particular seat. Whether you will contest in another election, but there was something that they said there was a statute that they have passed prior to his election, there was a standing statute that other bars felon from either taking seat or contesting or something, because that was part of the political debate. In fact, at the time, that a unity party knew that this case was pending. Why did there were other unity partisans from Lofa, the Ko Bangalu, and all those who wanted to contest, and they were asked to, the Galakpa Kotima, they were asked to stand aside for Brani when this case was in court, and they knew the existence of such a law. And once he won and he got convicted, then the law applied. So there's something, I can't quote that particular statute, but there's something that, if I knew we were going to discuss this, definitely I was going to research that.
Just the breaking news. I think the big picture is probably is going for a political appointment, not elected seat.
Well, I don't know the extent of what the law said, whether it was just for elected position or even whether it extends to presidential appointment. We don't know.
Thank you.
Maybe Ahmed is a lawyer, probably he read that, but I'm sure there's some statute on that, because that was the statute the Solicitor General quoted at the time, which caused him the seat.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure it was just limited to that. But so I would say that much because it's a breaking news.
Yeah, it's breaking news. We just break it. We're not discussing it fully. Just the reaction.
Okay, but the other question you asked about the other breaking news, Gura Musu's card.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow that case, so I have no opinion on that really.
Thank you, Mr. Salif. Let's talk about the Gloria Musu Scott case. Do you see, with just like Brownie Samukai, do you think the president is also thinking about pardoning Councilor Scott?
Well, nothing is impossible. That he has presidential authority under the Constitution to pardon convicted, felons. And so who knows, but that's big news. I mean, the former Chief Justice, on the one hand, it shows that our system works, our system of rule of law, our judicial system works. No one is above the law. And so, I mean, if the jury found that the evidence produced in court and all the arguments and all the testimonies and everything, and the state proved its case beyond reasonable doubt, then that's the decision. The guilty is a conviction.
It was 11 to 1 jury.
On the say
11 to 1 the jury.
Yes, yeah, on the political side, that's where I guess your question is really coming from. That's big. Former Chief Justice, what does that mean? Is the will President Weah pardon her? And of course, her lawyers announced that they will appeal the decision to the Supreme Court, and so we can wait to see the outcome of that. But unless there was an error of law, what people don't understand is you just appeal to the Supreme Court and think that the court is going to throw the case out, and so the lower court's decision out. It's not automatic. They're now going to look at facts. They're looking at if there was some kind of error of law. On the big picture side, again, like I said, on the one hand, you wish you applaud a decision like that, and no one is above the law. Our system really needs to shock the system so that big, important people who are found guilty, who have been investigated, have gone through the judicial process, the court process, due process has been, they've benefited from due process under our law. And these people, if they're found guilty, whether it's corruption case, some kind of criminal case, violation of the penal code, whatever it is, that an important person can go to prison in the country. So if you send that kind of message, you start to send that kind of message in, say, corruption, economic sabotage cases and things like that, people will begin to behave. No one wants to lose their freedom. No one wants to go to prison, and I think Liberians are not hard to turn around. Behavior and mindset will change quickly. So yes, that's big news. On the Brownie Samuka side, I think he started running before the conviction, and in the law, I believe it's about a criminal conviction on your record, that somebody that's where the government, so the basically, I don't know the specific statute. You have to look at it. But he had a criminal conviction on his record, and so he couldn't be seated. They didn't allow him to sit, obviously. But once the president has pardoned him, it means he's gone back to status quo, as though he was not even convicted. So all his rights and privileges, his citizenship rights, obligations, and privileges have been restored. And therefore, such a citizen is able to go and ask the people to vote them to run for office, can be appointed, anything.
Thank you. Dr. Duke, Samukai is a big part of the Boakai campaign. And we heard rumors, I don't want to give credence to that, but this being fulfilled make us to say, well, is this a case of you scratch my back, I scratch your back? Pardon me, pardon my man. And we're even hearing rumors that they've asked for Brownie to be pardoned so that he can be appointed, right, into the government.
Yeah,
What's
but
happening here?
no, I think first of all, okay, there are two. Yeah, I know about the whole story from the beginning.
Okay.
2019, I was in Moravia, and Samukai came home, and he said, "Yeah, Duke, I just had a strange meeting." I said, "What kind of meeting?" He said, "With Koji." I said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, Koji just called me. He said we want to meet." We met, and he said bluntly to me, he said, "You know what? That position in Lofa, the senator seat, we won it. The party won it. So unless you want to run on a party ticket, you cannot run. If you run, we'll take it from you." And he said, "How are you going to do that?" I said, "Well, we'll bring that issue, the money issue on you." And we laugh about it. I said, "No, but I can't," because Samukai and Ellen and Weah had met during the transition time when the women were demonstrating for the money. They met. Ellen told Weah, yes, the government borrowed the money, and Weah said, "Okay, we're going to replenish it." And he went ahead and paid $450,000 out of the money. And then after 6 months, then Samukai decided to run. They said, "Okay, we're going to go after you." That's what happened. Weah knew something about himself. When he met Samukai, I can tell you that. He will not. I will not tell you the detail, but Weah had no idea that he was going to lose the elections. His conversation with Samukai at the church after the church was about what he will do for Samukai before Christmas. He said, "I'm going to give you a good Christmas gift, but you have to think about your future after we win these elections." This is like somebody telling me directly what was said to him. I'm not going to go into further detail, but this is the whole thing. So the whole idea that he said back scratch, no. We are promised to Samukai when he went to that church that I'm going to pardon you before Christmas. So it was not there's no quid pro quo. So Boakai was going to pardon him anyway, because we all knew it was a political hit, like they did with Cabinet Johnny. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you. And about Councillor Scott?
I'm sorry for the justice system. I'm sorry for her. I followed the case a little bit. It's just that, things happen. I don't know. I can't judge it. I'm not in court. I didn't follow the case day to day. All I know is that, a lot of things will happen. A lot of things have not been disclosed, whatever it is. But I think this is justice system. We live with it.
You think President Weah will pardon her before he leaves?
Well, why not? Because of her age, for humanitarian reasons, he could do it. Yeah, I mean, why not?
Thank
but
you.
Unless was it proven that she killed the girl, or that she was just covering up?
No, they said murder.
Yeah, they said
guilty of murder, of using a sharp object, so not cover up, but murder.
Or she's convicted of murder, killing a person.
Yeah.
Well, we have to leave that to Boakai. As Ahmed said, I think, sometimes, you can't just say, okay, somebody killed somebody because she was a Supreme Court justice. If you trust the system and say, okay, well, let her pay part of the sentence. Let, Boakai can pardon her. I don't know. It's kind of very complex. I don't want to be I don't go into legalities too much. This is Mr. Ahmed Salih's area.
Thank you. Thomas?
All I do, I can pray for her.
Thank you. I think she needs that. Thomas?
Yeah, so for me, on the Samukai issue is, was he even convicted on a fair basis? You know, it goes back to what Dak was saying. We all heard the story of him being asked by the president to use the money and they were going to replace it. So you come and convict not only him, but you convict 3 of them. And then after the conviction takes place, I think the other 2 persons left the country.
Yeah.
I was on social media, I think this week, one of those who was convicted with Samukai actually graduated with a PhD here in the US. So when the 3 of them were asked to pay the money and they were convicted, Samukai was denied his seat. He actually started to pay his portion of the $1.1 million. Why the 2 persons did not pay a cent. And then when they are being pardoned now, the 3 of them are all being pardoned. My issue on this is that if he was not convicted fairly, then of course pardon him because you knew that everything you did was political. But if Samukai actually did use that money against the public financial management systems, then I would not support a pardon. Because if you're going to pardon someone who you say was corrupt, what then do you do to all of these people that will be caught in the web of the audit that is upcoming? It will just be after 1 year, then the president pardons everyone. And then we get back to this status quo. That you do something wrong, we just harass you, and then we pardon you. It really doesn't send a good signal. But since the basis of it was that, and Samukai had always argued that he was asked by the president to actually do this, then I would say the pardon is just reversing a political calculation that the CDC government took.
But Thomas and also Duke, it is true that Samukai actually took the money. So whether somebody tell you to take it, it doesn't really excuse you, right?
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, it's like the soldier.
Right.
On the battlefront. You commander say go shoot civilians.
Right.
And you go and shoot them, you go to jail for it. Yeah, I think he was wrong. I think he was, he was wrong doing it. Definitely. He was wrong, taking orders from the president, knowing that. But then again, you say, okay, well, we do this.
Not even subpoena to be in court. And so, why did Samukai
he said, well, his excuse and his lawyer say, well, he's a soldier. He's a colonel in the army.
You see?
And he said commander-in-chief was there. She was part of the meeting. The communique was issued. The women leadership was brought to the president's house to talk about it. So he did not have to call her. It was up to her to say, I was the one who did this. And President Weah signed on to it. So he said, as a soldier, he could not call the president to say, come testify on my behalf. She knew he was in court. All she had to do was to come and testify.
So Thomas, complete, because right there was some form of collusion between Samukai, Weah, and Ellen. What do you think? So
yeah, but there was a communication issue. It was on the radio.
Collusion, not communication. Collusion.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's for me. That's my perspective on the issue. If what he did, the government thought it was absolutely wrong, especially considering the fact that he paid portion of the money, let him complete and let them go after the other 2 persons so that they can also pay theirs. Because my point is that it's not fair for Samukai to pay back and then the other people don't pay and they all get pardon. On the issue of the Guerrero Muscat issue, I think one of the new things that came up as part of the counter argument was that I think they did a new round of an autopsy, and then the autopsy that was done, there was this, I think a pathologist from America who was saying that I think he found evidence that the person who stabbed the little girl was either a male, not a female. I was contained in the autopsy report that
because the
doctor
DNA sample was
the DNA sample. So I thought it was going to like twist things around a bit, and then considering the caliber of lawyers that the former Chief Justice has, so I thought it was actually going to change. So I was a bit shocked today when the ruling came. But we'll be waiting to see. I think they are going to take an appeal to the Supreme Court to see if anything is going to change. That's all I would say about it.
That takes us to our topic of the day.
But Dennis, I wanted to make a quick comment here based on what Kenneth said. let's understand that money issue. That money issue was not like Thomas talked about, the public financial management law. That money was not a government money. We have to understand this. This was some pension scheme, some scheme for personnel designed for themselves. They were paying into all of that salary. Just for the protection of the funds, I think the defense minister probably or officials of the ministry are signatory to that to protect the infantrymen, the laymen there. So that was it. So it was not even the government of Liberia money. They had no business. They could go anywhere to credit money. They had no business going to that money. Okay? So it was just on the face of it, it was just outrageous, given the low salary these army, personnel get. It was just totally, insensitive to go to that little money. Okay,
and just like the Noka issue, where Ellen, she said, "Okay, I told him that's not an excuse."
Yeah, but then when we discuss these issues, quite often we forget the fact that our Constitution, Article 61, give a clear indemnity to the President of the Republic of Liberia. Even President Weah can take gun today and invite Ahmed Salif to Monrovia. And at the executive mansion, President Weah can shoot him dead. And
except that gun can kill me.
I have to give you a extreme example. On our law, it's very clear that the president will not be arrested, will not be indicted. It's clear. It's there. It's in the Constitution. Unless we amend it. So this is the reason why, in the wisdom of the Solicitor General and even the Defense Council, they said we can't invite the president cannot testify. Because he cannot testify in court, you do it on an oath. If you lie, you can be indicted. On our law, the president cannot be, the former president or whatever cannot be indicted.
But I think the point why I reference the public financial management system is that this is private money. But the point is that it was used for some public purposes. When the general died in Nigeria, they say give it as a contribution of the government of Liberia. That is a public purpose. So again, even though it's private money, but it has linked to the public financial management system.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying.
About that general, I want us to move on. No, about that general, people talk about that general that he was the chief of staff of the army until the new chief of staff was formed. So people always forget that he's a Nigerian. No, he was chief of staff appointed by ECOWAS to run the Liberian army till we had a core of cadres who could take over. And that's what he did.
That man was not paying in the pension, in the scheme the infantrymen were paying into. And I mean, even to pay.
No, I understand. I'm just saying.
Why they keep going to the little men money?
No. I'm not talking about the little men money. I'm talking about the general here. I'm just precising that the general was chief of staff of the Liberian army during his formative years. It was not like money was given to a Nigerian guy. This guy was taken by ECOWAS and the UN to form the Liberian army, and that's what he was. He served there for 6-7 years. So that's what I'm talking about. I don't, the money for the little guy. Yes, we all eat from a little guy.
The more you go in the corner, your face is covered by your So please stay in the center, or you remove your background, because then we can see you. All right.
I have a screen here that I keep looking at and I'm responding. So
yeah, please don't look at that screen. Just look at me.
Because your background takes half of your face.
All right. So today we want to talk about the road ahead of President-elect Joseph Newman Boakai when he becomes president. So the road ahead of him. The first thing that I see that we want us to talk about is forming his cabinet or forming his government. Even by now, we don't have any hint. There are a lot of competing interests. All right. And we see the people we see around. We try to speculate as to who is going to be in his government by the way people are posturing. We see my friend and brother Amara Kone. I mean, somebody joke and say Amara now is like a kid in the candy school. Is he a senator? Is he the finance minister? Does he want to be finance minister? Does he want to be chief of protocol? Does he want to be foreign minister? What does he do? So that sometimes tell you that this may be a problem for Boakai, right? So let's talk about the role ahead of Boakai when it comes to forming his government, especially with these competing interests. We look at him and say, well, we want to see a sharp change from Mr. Weir, who really didn't have the right people, we all agree, in place. We also see that he came and said, everybody get away, I'm bringing my own people, even though he retained like Sam Wulu, Eugene Nambwe, Mary Bro, and the few. Will Boakai be doing the same thing? Will he retain some, or will it be everybody leave? Is he going to form a coalition government? Is he going to tap into the diaspora? Will it be our time to eat too? So these are the challenges I'm looking at. Let me start with you, Thomas. The role ahead of him when it comes to forming his government.
Well, I think he has a very complex job to do here to be able to form the government. Because when you have a lot of competent people, then you have a challenge with selection. Because you take a position and you have 3, 4, 5 persons who are competent, who can serve in that position. So, and there are layers of the selection. Some people serve with him in the Erling government for 12 years. Some people, even before the Erling government, serve with him many years in the public sector. He has personal experience with working with them. But they are as aged as he is. He might not want to bring them and give them positions. There will be some complaints from the young people in the party. There are people who serve in the Weir government who have some experience, who took some experience. There are people who have gone to school and have just graduated and they are back in the country and are looking forward to be appointed. So also you have, after the first round, all of these other political parties that came to support the ACO, the party of Apeton, and the other smaller political parties that came to support. So you have a long list of people to be able to select from to put them into positions. So, and you don't have endless positions. You have these ministries and agencies and commissions. And don't forget that some of the positions are tenure positions. The LACC, for instance, is filled. Some of the other positions are filled. You can send anyone there. That leaves you with a very limited position. And not 2 persons can serve in one position. So I think he's going to have this difficulty. But the advantage, I think, is that anyone who gets selected knows very well that you have others who can do the job. And therefore, you have to actually do your best to maintain your position in whatever capacity you'll be given. In the end, what I do see is that people will have to dress by. You had this ambition that you could be a minister. In the end, you might end up not being appointed as a minister. You might end up being appointed as a deputy minister, or you might end up have to lower your expectation and become an assistant minister. And that way also it becomes a huge competition because you've been seated as a minister, but you know very well that your deputy minister has the capacity of being minister. So I think overall it will be a challenge for him in terms of forming the government. But on the other hand, it's an advantage for him because he will have a lot of competent people to be able to pull his selection from.
And Calabo, those are the challenges. Does Boakai have a history of managing those kind of challenges to be able to come with a competent corps of officers that will be able to lead the country? Because the expectation from Mr. Boakai to be a sharp, something but far better than what we've seen with President Weir.
Well,
can Boakai measure up to that task?
Dennis, I think it's a counterfactual argument here. Boakai has never been president. In spite of the fact that he has more than 42 years of public service record in Liberia, whether it's in the private sector or government service, he has all these long years. He's never been in a position where he has to appoint people, more or less nominate people to the Senate. Another body has to vet that nomination, send it back to him and say, look, I agree. We agree with your nomination. This person is competent. This person can serve in any position of trust or in this position. He's never had that. So I'm not going to comment on that. But, in Liberia, we say, before the tree falls, it casts its shadow. So Liberia is a country with a huge patronage system. And our leaders, historically believe, tend to favor people who honor them, who adore them, who don't criticize them. So those who think that maybe not much Roman, I think if you look in a transitional committee, I think that's a shadow cabinet there. I've seen so many people there. Never mind the caveat, the transitional committee is just a voluntary group. This is really his cabinet there. I mean, most of his cabinet members will come from there. You can't tell me Kofi Wu is not be a cabinet minister. You can't tell me Cyril Bessler is not going to be a cabinet minister. So I'm not going to argue that. But all I can say is President-elect Boakai has to determine the purpose of his mission. Is he coming to shake the table, or is he coming to stabilize the table? If that's all he's come to do, I submit that he's come to stabilize the table. Because in my mind, to begin with the World Bank, it means you don't intend to shake the table. There are lots of resources in Liberia that can develop Liberia. There are other mechanisms you can take over in Liberia and put in place, and then challenge the status quo and say, look, I'm not going to go to the African Development Bank. I'm not going to go to the World Bank. The young guy, I think 28 or 26-year-old in Burkina Faso, Traore is showing it. I mean, I watch this guy video every single day. He's showing the model that we can do this. This guy is saying, look, in the next 3 years, Burkina Faso is going to be exporting other products out. If the Firestone plantation was in Burkina Faso today, they will be packing either their bags to leave the country, or they will be constructing a processing plant to produce tires and other stuff. That's what he's insisting on now, that Burkina Faso resources are not going to leave, natural resources are not going to leave the country unprocessed. What it would be Boakai's mission? I submit his mission will be to maintain the status quo, and will keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. That's not going to change. They're going to be telling you, the per capita income of Liberia has gone this. That statistic means nothing. It means nothing. Okay? There's so many pitfalls on that. You're going to talk about GDP per capita. All that thing means nothing, because there's so many limitations on that. The calculation of GDP does not take even the cost on funeral. Funeral expenses in Liberia alone, it doesn't take that into account. We've debated this in different forums. So GDP itself has tremendous limitation in terms of the statistics of it. So we rely on that for development measurement, looking at different indicators. I'm not going to debate that, but I believe that President-elect Boakai must show that he's an old person, but a radical transformer of the state. If he doesn't show that from day one, then he's going to follow the flow. I submit.
Mr. Salif has even seen comments here say, should Boakai appoint technocrats or loyalists? Jimmy say, don't forget 20 position for Prince Johnson. So we talk about these competing interests, right? Prince Johnson always want position for Nimba. And then there is this thing about sanctions. He himself alluded to it, that we want to bring people with integrity, people who will declare their assets. So we're watching, and also he came from a government where the children of President Salif, they were kind of, embarrassment, especially Robert Salif, right? Boakai now is facing, okay, where will he put Jojo? And all these kind of things. So there's a pressure on him, and the expectations are high.
Well, let's be careful not to conflict, the political structure of what brought President Boakai, soon to be President Boakai, to office, like the different alliances that worked along with the Unity Party, and some of the interests that you have pointed out, Dennis. Look, the cruise is in the mouth of the houses itself, as they say, right? The man said, I am not here to repeat the same thing that's always happened and has gotten us nowhere. He said, I've been in government, I've been around government for a long time. I'm not interested in bringing people to office who are coming for their personal gains. I'm not interested in that. He said in his interview with the VOA, I am going to start by declaring my own asset, and I expect all of my cabinet officials to do the same. And so, to me, it sounds like forget about his age. This is his age is an asset to us in that respect because he has seen it all. He has seen errors. When I say conflicting, if you look at what Jimmy's pointing at Prince Johnson's list, people from Unity Party, some of the people that Gonglo is pointing out, all of these people, these are all Liberians. What I'm hearing President Boakai will do is, look, if you are a Liberian with integrity, you are competent, you coming for the sake of public service, and here are my criteria, then come. But if you're coming with other motives, you will have no place in my government, in my cabinet, and I will have a sort of a metric to track that. These are the kinds of things that you read. You don't have to read the tea leaves. You heard it from the man's own mouth. He said that he will bring people. First of all, he'll be inclusive because he's alluded to that in many ways.
Let me interject, Mr. Salif, because Mr. Boakai also said during the CPP chaos that if I get to Monrovia, this will be done. It never happened. So should we just take this, on face value?
Dennis, that was a political maneuvering. Okay. The man was trying to be a candidate for the presidency. Several other people were trying to be candidate for the candidate for the presidency. And so in that situation, you don't have authority. You're trying to lead a bloc, to lead a coalition to the election. It could happen, it could not happen. It didn't happen in this case. And so he maneuvered and got himself elected. So we're here now. He will be the president of the country. And so with the authority vested in the president, it will be, the box will start with President Boakai. He's telling you what kind of cabinet you will have, the type of people he will be looking to serve in his cabinet, in his government. He's telling you. He's not even just throwing hints. The man said it, his interview. You can read, you can draw commentary for each of those points. I will declare my asset. You're not coming to government to get wealthy. If that's why you think, then don't come here, go somewhere else. Maybe go to the private sector, go find other means to get your wealth. If you generally gain your wealth, well, good for you. But come for the sake of public service. We will make government work for the people. These are the words that President Boakai is using. And to Calabo's point about, he's going to he's going to the World Bank and to the US and all these institutions he's meeting with in Washington. He's not coming to shake the table. No, you can do that in a short run. The man is taking over. He needs support from these multilateral organizations that give people grants and loans and things like that to get your government running, at least until you have your development policy laid out, you have your development funding organized. All of these, Liberia has tremendous resources. We know that for a fact. But you just come into office. You have to appoint people. You have to get people confirmed. You have to ensure that you hire, do a background check, get the right people in place. It will take a little bit. Maybe, we're talking 3-4 months to get really the administration seated and moving. Before you get to that point, you have no time to waste, however. The government ought to run. It has to serve the people. It has to be a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. How do you do that? There's nothing wrong with going to institutions that are there to support governments and countries. If you do it responsibly, you're not going to them and they're trying to be a stooge to anyone. You're going to them, use them for what these institutions say they are, to the best of your ability, for the advantage of the Liberian people. That's what I hear. That's what I see.
Thank you. Dr. Dukley, before he became president-elect, we saw how President Kennedy Boakai was being managed. We saw this with Henry Costa and other people. We saw with Monsieur Kpade telling him, okay, the people are here. We saw George Lobo whispering, say this, that's it. he's president now. We still, if we still don't see that robust or someone who is in charge. When we look at the pictures today, we saw pictures. He's taking measurement. They have measured. Things that if I would say that they are on Boakai, we're seeing them. It's like, okay, who is really directing these things? Who are the people close in the Boakai's orbit that making these decisions?
Are you asking?
It comes to the cabinet. It's come to forming his government. Will this kind of thing play a role?
I'm not sure. I think, in any new power, you have things like this. Everybody here talked about the competition for jobs, competition for this is like the time where everybody wants to show I can manage the president, but he's not president yet. So everybody will take their pictures, they post them, they do this and that. Chief, I did this. Everybody's positioning. Everything you see around Boakai now is positioning for something.
Will that change?
It will change once you nominate the cabinet. When people, if you're not appointed, then you go sit down. But if you're appointed, then you say, okay. So I think now you have to look at it from now till probably January 22nd, 23rd. You have these competing faces, competing interests, competition to be visible. Who's at the dinner? Who was there with this and that? But when you talk about who's managing Boakai, maybe Boakai is managing everybody because everybody seems to get to do what he wants to become president. You see that? You look at my point. There are too many ways. There are so many ways to lead. His leadership is concrete because Ellen left him on the sidewalk 6 years ago. He was broke. He had no money. He was sick. But he won the elections. He won the elections. So what did he do to win the elections? How did he convince people to break away from their parties, to break away from their friends, to join him? That's the question you ask, not who's managing him. He's managing everybody to do what he wants, when he wants it to be done. And that competition, to be in the limelight, who's closer to the sun, when you get closer to the sun, Icarus, you get burned. So all these people who are fighting to be the spokesperson, this and that, will all fade away. And Boakai will come up with his own team, his government, and I'm sure he'll be choosing the best of Liberians from all counties, all ethnic groups, everywhere, the competent ones. And of course, you want a loyalist because you want somebody who is competent, but that competence must also be added to loyalism. That the person has to believe in your agenda. You don't want somebody to come in to try to sabotage your work. So that's very important. You can't just say, okay, our government will control. No, you don't want a government in union. You want your government because you are responsible to the people of Liberia, not Jane Brown.
You can have team of rivals, right? That's another team of rivals. That's another style, not just loyalists and yes, sir.
Yeah, a good leader will put people who are probably have competing interests in the same team.
Who would disagree with him?
Yeah, who disagree not only with him, but disagree among themselves and discuss the issues to reach to a conclusion. That's what a good leader would do. You have people who have competing ideas, competing things, and I would say anybody who survived in Liberian jungle with George William money and all of that, his assurances and everything else, to beat him, to beat 20 other people, the man is president. You got to give it to him. He did something right. He could have gone back like, all the parties that lost the elections in Liberia. He would have been now sitting in Foya, growing cassava or something.
That leads us to the next one, which is the accountability and integrity factor. Looking at asset declaration or investigating audit, the sanction people, what it's going to do. But let's listen to Mr. Boakai in his own word.
Start by making sure those people that we bring to cabinet are people of integrity. And secondly, want to make sure that even beginning with myself, we'll declare our assets and want to make sure that this is well known the purpose of coming to government, to know that it's public service. And if you are not ready to serve the public, you can go elsewhere. But we want to make sure that we start on a clear note that the people of our country stood on line, they protected the votes, not to bring a team again that will do the same thing that the other people are doing or worse. So it's a clear message: declare your asset, make sure that we are prepared to audit the outgoing government so that they tell the Liberian people of their stewardship, and to make sure that we start on a footing where people know that they come to serve the public and not themselves. If they don't understand that, they actually fall where it may.
Mr. Salif,
There you
does
go.
that make the Boakai job even tougher, right? Because in the midst of asset declaration, and you know that's been the problem already, and I'll give one example. Already, we've seen that people have some, I would say, funny money in that country, and some of these people are in Boakai's orbit. Would that present a challenge to Mr. Boakai?
No, look, he sounds like he's going to be a very strong, stern, firm leader who wants to leave a legacy unlike any we've seen before. I really am hopeful and I'm optimistic. The man is telling you, okay, so if you think there is a witch hunt, which I don't think it is, we will bring an international firm, empower them under Liberian law that they will conduct the audit. Okay, so he's telling you, declare your asset. If you want to serve in my government, in my administration, declare your asset. I will declare mine. He's telling you, if you think that you want to come for wealth, then don't come here, because your public service ought to be for what it ought to be, which is a public service for the sake of the people, for the sake of the public, right? The public service is not where you come, all of a sudden you amass sudden wealth. Yes, there are individuals who have questionable wealth, and in the outgoing administration, other administration, people are discussing them. We can only presume. We don't have, the allegations out there. We do not have the facts. And now they may go beyond just the weird administration to try to investigate. If you set up an asset recovery process, what the president-elect didn't say was whether the audit will include asset recovery, because that's a different process. An audit can lead to an investigation of ill-gotten wealth and assets, and therefore a process under Liberian law, Liberian system could lead to a recovery of assets so that it is repatriated back to the public, public treasury. These are things that you can do. It doesn't mean it's complicated. Yes, but he's saying, look, the reporter there, the VOA guy asked him, preview something about relatives and friends and things like that. I said, yeah, listen, I have friends, I have relatives, I have family members. But when it comes to governance and government for the people, there's a demarcation there. And I believe he will follow through on that. Look, this man is telling you he's going to serve one term. Okay, that's the big elephant in the room. Somebody like this, I imagine, wants to leave a big, impactful legacy that will change the trajectory of the country. I'm really hopeful, and I believe he can do it. It sounds complicated, but other countries that have transformed, have moved forward, they had to swallow the bitter pills. Dennis, you want to get well, you have to take medicine. It is our season to take medicine, and I'm looking forward to that. We'll see it if it comes true. If not, if it goes back to the same old Liberian thing, that my friend and my cousin don't touch this, how you can, kind of thing, then we're not going anywhere. But we're hearing the president-elect. This is not the first time he has said this, Dennis. So I don't know how else I can be optimistic. How else can he communicate clearly that his will be one of transparency and accountability? He's talking about integrity. He wants people with integrity. He wants to audit people. He wants due process, therefore bringing international firm so that to remove that appearance of a witch hunt. In my view, that is a very, very strong leader that we're about to get here soon.
Thank you. Thomas, there's this thing that you pull rope, rope pull bush. Already, the U.S. has sanctioned people, and they have called on President Boakai to investigate them or to kind of take the next step with them. And we know that some of these people are right there. I mean, normally the name of Prince Johnson will come to mind, but in the Boakai cycle, people are even talking about going back to the some things that happened in the past, starting with WIA, like the WIA Small Business Pro Development Fund, like the Finance Ministry Private Sector Development Initiative, like the Robert Johnson Million Direct Investment, the Mayo Jones, loan scheme and all that, the NASCOP, issue. So these things already, even my friend Amara Connor has posted on his Facebook page that he took a $1 million loan, and of that $1 million, he paid 500,000 back. I mean, these are. I mean, I don't know what in Liberia you can present to say, "Give me $1 million." So, how difficult? Don't you think that this pulling? In fact, Mr. Boakai himself, because as you audit, you got to even go down. The VP office was never audited. The Senate he presided over was never audited, and many things. So they will come back to him, don't you? So that's what I'm looking at.
I think if we expect change to take place, then we can't be afraid again.
You mean Boakai can be afraid?
I mean, even yourself, you look too afraid that if you do this, then it's going to lead to this, it's going to lead to that. We have to have a radical change and break away from all of these things that have been happening in the past. And one of the things that he said in his interview, which has been speculating since 2017, was the issue of the former president going to him and say, okay, I will need protection when I'm no longer president. And what came out of the news is that he said, if you didn't do anything wrong, why do you need protection? So he's again saying to you that if anybody comes in the government and do exactly what the previous people did, then the law is going to be the law. You will exactly be treated the way people we are going to audit now will be treated. On the issue of how somebody can take a $1 million loan, it's just to develop a business plan. The banks in Liberia have money, they are giving it away. There are people in Liberia who are taking more than that money for businesses. So people are able to get it. It's just for you to develop your business plan, you sell it to the bank, and if they trust you, they'll be able to give it to you. In the same post, Amara listed most of his assets, what he made from the World Bank, what he made from consultancy. So if the bank believes that Amara is able to pay back the $1 million, they are going to give it to him. But on the basis,
when did he take the loan?
I think he took the loan, around 2017 for his farm in Bapolo. I think it came as part of a post that Samuel Tuwe made on this HPS issue, and then he responded and provided all of that information.
So the thing is, this thing always will also call for audit. Is Boakai prepared to audit those people?
But I'm going back to the first question that you asked. Okay. And for me, this is a fundamental issue. Because if we say Boakai is going to have a whole of government audit, then of course it needs to cover the 3 branches of government. You can say I'm going to audit and you just audit the executive branch of government, you leave the judiciary, and you leave the legislature. So the question is if this whole of government audit is going to cover all the 3 branches of government, because we do know that the legislature have their own financial system. Normally when the allocations are made, their portion of the money is sent to them, and they have their own central administration, they have their financial system, and they use the money based on the system that they have. Even when the harmonization was done, initially it did not touch the legislature because they were kind of separate branch of government. The judiciary, in some instances, the fee that they collect, it doesn't come to the consolidated account. It stays with them as their portion of the allocations that are made to them in the budget. So there are a lot of issues around the legislature, the judiciary. If we want to have a very firm foundation and start everything from scratch, then of course we need to audit all these 3 branches of government. If you go back to the days of John Molu, when he went to Liberia, he said he wanted to audit the legislature. People demonstrated and they did everything to stop him. Is Boakai now going to do this? And whether when you haul rope is going to haul bush, I think the reason why we are where we are is because we never want to haul the rope to haul the bush. We have always been afraid of doing it.
Boakai hauled that rope.
That's what I think he's going to do, because he himself has said it. And the issue of these funds, to me, they are fundamental. The small business fund at the Ministry of Commerce is meant to help these poor people who are doing smaller businesses. But when the fund is established, people establish these fictitious companies. They take the 45,000, they take the 50,000, and everything goes into vain. So how then do we contribute to private sector development? You know, when COVID came here, for instance, the number of resources that flew from the central government, the federal government, to businesses, these are the approaches through which you channel money to the private sector for them to grow. And when you're talking about where the resources will come from, domestic resource mobilization, the mother of all of these things is growth. You have to grow the economy before you can collect taxes. And the way you grow the economy is to grow the private sector. So if we send money to the Ministry of Commerce and people get it out through other means, we set up funds at one of these banks to support agriculture, to support small farmer holders, and then big people go and take it. How then do we grow the economy? So I think it should cover all of these funds. The audit should not just be limited to the WIA regime. If these funds are meant to be audited, let them be audited. And for me, my trust in what GMB is saying is not only him, it's also people who are around him. The John Molu, the Darius Belong, who has a different brand of politics. I think they themselves will push for accountability in this government.
Thank you. Dr. Dukle.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a system. I don't know what are regular people too can take this kind of loan, or only government official. We saw that with McGill. But same question, right? Will Mr. Boakai pull this rope, this proverbial rope that is always pulling bush, owing to the people that are around him that they too? Because I mean, take for instance, they want him to look at those sanction officials like Nukwe. Nukwe was at Ways and Means when Boakai picked him. Jeremiah Combe also Ways and Means. So really, you cannot audit Nukwe without wanting to audit Jeremiah Combe, who was also there, or audit Prince Moe, who was also at Ways and Means. So these are the kind of challenges I'm looking at. It's Mr. Boakai says he's going to do it. Do you believe him?
Do I believe him?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe him. But can he do it? That's a little question.
And what do you think?
I think he would try to manage it politically, because the last thing you want to do as president is to kill everybody around you. If everybody's corrupt around you, well, then you have a problem. And I think that's the biggest challenge he will face, not just forming a government. I mean, you were talking about government, but this is probably the biggest problem he will face. If he's going to go after people who have been sanctioned, he will not only he cannot leave Prince Johnson aside, he cannot leave Vani Sharman aside, anybody else, and those are his friends. So, can he do it? Then I come back to what Ahmed said. He's an old man, one-term president. He wants to make his mark. If he wants to do that, he can do it. I mean, people have succeeded. Jerry Rawlings didn't create Ghana democracy by being nice to everybody. Kagame, okay, now he's staying too long, but he didn't do that, by being nice to his friends. Sometimes you just got to say, like Bush at one point said, Carl, his friend, he said, my man, we've been friends for 40 years, but now politics got into the way you have to stay away from the White House. At some point, you say that to your friends. You say, no, you have to go. If Boakai has that capacity, the courage to do it, he has the opportunity to do it, he can do it. But will he do it, though? Because you can never, it's always, the promise, the campaign promise and the presidency are two different things. When you walk into the office in the morning and then they say, Chief, there's no money to run the generator in the mansion. I mean, this really happens. I've been there. We have no money to buy fuel to run the generator for the next 12 hours. Say, oh, the US ambassador is coming at 11. The Nigerian ambassador is coming at 12. Oh, there's an accident on the Bassa Road. Students are LU up. So you get caught up into these things. Those big dreams, they all fly through the window. Either people say now, oh, you don't say manage your expectation. It doesn't matter. you will have to, because the campaign promises are campaign promises. Until Boakai takes over, until he appoints his government, that we see who's at justice, who's at finance, who's at defense, who's at foreign affairs, who's at internal affairs, we're just speculating. Through those people, then we know if he's really serious or if he's just playing lip service. But we hope he's serious about it because he has nothing to lose.
And who is saying that Boakai is going to go for one term? Has he said that?
No, I mean,
right.
I heard it from Ahmed. I don't know if you heard it. Huh? I think probably he's based on the age.
Because we are only assuming, right?
Yeah, we assume that, if he's like, well, he's going to be what, 84 when the term is over?
Yeah.
That's not the time to run for a second term.
Iyadima, we saw Iyadima.
You can't say that politically. Then you make yourself weak. No.
Oh.
No, you do your job, you 6 years and then you finish, you go home.
Right.
You go enjoy your grandchildren. We're not going to do that kind of, babysitting the president.
Yeah, because we heard President Salih was going for one term and we got two. So we can't be too sure. So let's leave it as it is. Mr. Gonglo, let's look at this because I said when I mentioned, Morris is saying, hey, you are implying everybody in Ways and Means is corrupt. No, I say everybody in Ways and Means need to be looked at. We have to audit this audit. Audit doesn't mean that we are sensing corruption. So
the 10 seconds before Gonglo comes in, all these institutions are audited. They have internal auditors. They have the documents. It's all to dust them up. They have internal auditors. Every institution is audited all the time. Sorry.
And that's, I didn't focus on that with the when they asked Mr. Boakai whether he was going to, how can you ensure that it's free from bias or from seeming like which one? And he ran to, they will be international, implying that if you have Liberians, then it's not. And I didn't like that, but that's another story that we'll come to. That it has to be international people to show that they are competent and there will be no room for corruption or saying
not a
like
competence, and it's not a competence. I think it was just.
He mentioned that he talked about competence. Right?
I think a neutrality factor. That's what I was.
Right, but we can have Liberians that can be neutral. I believe, and I can suggest that if you have an audit and asset recovery team headed by someone like Tiawan Gonglo, you have an auditor like Robert Kilby, and put these people together, I think even if we have international people, they should just be part of it and not the whole group. But that's a different story. I don't want us to go into that. Mr. Gonglo, let's hear from you on the challenges posed by this whole transparency, accountability, audit, asset recovery, looking at the people that are even in the Boakai's orbit.
Kebe was dismissed for conflict of interest. I don't think you should mention him.
And then competence. Go to Gonglo. Let's move on.
Well, so just before I proceed, it's kind of interesting when Thomas talk about Molu attempting to audit the legislature, and there was resistance to that. That's fact. This is something I know because I was in Monrovia. But during the course of this campaign, when I mentioned that to John Molu, and I say, hey, Ambassador Boakai was in the Senate when your letter went there, and they were resisted, and he didn't defend you. John Molu denied ever attempting to audit the legislature. Okay, I have that text message between both of us still. But no, I'm not going to debate that. But I just want to, when Thomas was talking about that, I said, here is my witness right here. I just remember that. Listen, I'm going to go back to it. When I listen to Dr. Du, I think, I don't agree with him most of the time, but his few comments a moment ago, I think he actually kind of, summarized everything. When you get to the presidency, you have to be convicted about your programs. Otherwise, you get swayed away by people who are around you, because people around you are your realities. They are your daily reality. They tell you what's happening in Logan Town. They tell you what's happening on Rafi Highway. They tell you what's happening in Foya. or in Ganto. You don't go there. They are your realities. And here is what I've seen. I will just say quickly on a few things, then I'll make a direct comment. I remember sitting in the room with the late Dr. Kenneth Kaunda and the late Mwai Kibaki in Kenya, right after the election. During the election, Kibaki promised that he was going to go after Daniel Arap Moi's 24-year rule. You're going to go after all the corruption, all the scandal. And Kenneth Kaunda and I walk in the room there, and he said, Kibaki, leave Moi alone. Leave Moi government officials alone. If Moi didn't want to have power, Moi will still be president. Leave that. When we walk out and I turned to him and said, Dad, because Chiluba went after you in Zambia, so you don't want the same thing here. I disagree with you respectfully. I think he should go after you should keep his campaign promise. 100 days after Kibaki took power. In fact, immediately when he took power, one of the guys that we expected for him to prosecute, the late Dr. Michael Satoti, he appointed him as Minister of Education.
How all your witnesses died?
No. Well, I mean, those are older folks.
All right, go ahead.
So President Sali is a classic example in Liberia. When she was taking, in fact, before she took power, in Secretary, in 2005, the Unity Party Convention, she asked Prince Johnson to leave, that she did not want people with tinted records in the Unity Party government. Prince Johnson wanted to contest on Unity Party ticket. That's how he left and ran independent. In fact, she ejected somebody's Paul Mulbany, either in the transitional committee or something. She rejected it also. When she was taken off her office, she said, corruption will be public enemy number one. Anyone who doubts that and think this is just a mere posturing by yet another Liberian leader must think twice. The story, 12 years later, I'm not going to tell that story. Maurice Kroman, who is listening, can tell that story. Okay? I have been in a closed door with Ambassador Boakai. Boakai is a good man.
Why you guys call him ambassador? He's not ambassador, please.
Oh, okay. A president-elect Boakai is a man who believes that there are a lot in Liberia that he considered this healthy disagreement as forcing. No need to force. I was sitting down at the Capitol building in a room when Amra Corner was being summoned by the senator to be held in contempt. And Councillor Gonglo volunteered and said the contempt under the Constitution does not extend to what you said or what you did. I will defend who can go to the Supreme Court. I was there in our room. Ambassador Boakai, Vice President Boakai convinced Amra Kwane not to follow Councillor Gonglo, who wanted a legal remedy to the process, and said, just read a letter of apology to the Senate. I will settle it beyond the scenes. I saw a statement looking at disagreement, legal disagreement, constitutional disagreement as forcing. No need to force. The country is small. I heard that. I'm not talking this. I heard that.
Therefore,
I still doubt whether the statement he's making at VOA will match with his action. Talking is cheap, we say in Liberia. But what you do is the most important thing. I still do not believe that Ambassador Boakai will match.
You're bringing this ambassador business again.
Well, I mean, we have called him ambassador for 20 years, so it's difficult to go away.
And that was not true. I don't know why you keep calling him ambassador. He's Vice President Boakai. Yes, you have said. You kept saying ambassador, reducing his portfolio. But go ahead.
President-elect Boakai, I doubt whether he will match his action with his word. Given what the little I know about him, one direct experience, I doubt that. Because part of the thing is, let's be fair on this. In Liberia today, Thomas spoke on this recently. Audit is quite expensive. People just use the word audit loosely. There's so much thing for me. If I'm a vice or president-elect Boakai today, what I will tell you is do not go for audit. The low-hanging fruit is list all the former ministers under the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the UP government, list all the ministers, and sometimes, in some cases, I would say the procurement directors in the various ministry, because they can steal a lot too. The procurement directors, the director of finance, list them. Let's go after, let's do lifestyle audit. Under the law, CRD can invite, if Ahmed Salim with your work and seeing with 50-story building in
Yeah, all your examples that I'm selling tonight, very good one.
All right, Dr. Douglas. If we wake up in the morning in Monrovia, we see 50-story building. Say, oh, that's Dr.
I said I found a diamond.
Yeah, Dr. Douglas own that building.
But
They will concern government to say how you got that kind of money in this country. They can actually
I have a Diamond Creek on my farm,
yeah, but you can prove to the CRD or to the Economic Crime Investigation Unit, either at the NSC or whatever, you can prove to them that this is how I got it. I think that is for me, a fair and transparent way to go than to go because audit, one will be expensive, and in most cases, you may not even come up with what the public expect is happening. Because a lot of stuff that happen in government, the guys who have the power in the different ministry may not be necessarily diverting budget, where sometimes almost every year budget shortfall, they may not even be getting that. They could be getting what they get from all sources using power and access.
Thank
But
you.
don't you think that's kind of subjective when you go lifestyle audit?
Lifestyle audit, that's what I'm talking about. It's objective. It will be objective. Or if you cannot,
but you still have to do some form of actual audit.
Mr. Kona just provided. I have not read that. Thomas brought that up. He said he and Samukai, I have not seen that exchange. I've been hearing about it, but he said Samukai talk about something, and he provided proof of how he got $1 million loan, and he did this. Fair enough. So if Minister Kona was listed to them and say how you got this fine, he can go to the committee and he can prove that yes.
Yeah, but that exchange, that tells us that two of them need to be audited. Plain and simple. But let me go to.
I can comment on that. I've not.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we're talking about millions here.
So for me, I think on Ambassador Boakai, I think he has a difficult job to do here. Okay, our Vice President, President-elect Boakai, I think he has a difficult job to do here, giving one a chronic culture of patronage in Liberia, and giving his own view about disagreement. He considers disagreement as forcing, and the country is small. There's a lot here, no need to force them on outside. I've heard this from him directly. I've heard that also from people around him. So I believe he's not going to change that world view because he's president today. I don't believe that.
And Kalebo, to add to that, I don't know if Mr. Boakai have any history of shaking tables.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I don't see. Let me bring in Mr.
We say, true all, we have the different progressive movement. He was a member of UPP. But we never heard one rally that he participated, or one meeting that he attended, or one article to the editor that he wrote. So he's not known for shaking the table. Well, maybe he might shake the table for the first time when he becomes president, saying he's going to be the president.
Let me turn to Mr. Anthony Sia. He's the host of Hour of Politics, and he's someone who has done extensive research on Mr. Boakai. We're talking about Mr. Boakai, the road ahead of him, looking at transparency and accountability. He himself said about audit, asset declaration, and all the 9 years. Can he do it, Mr. Sia?
Well, Dennis, I doubt that he would do it to our expectation. He might do it the Boakai way, and that Boakai way will not call it. I'm sorry to say so. The first thing I want to say is I think his interview, I listened to it. He interviewed very well. I wish that interview was done by Focus on Liberia. I saw the video, and I also saw pictures of people making makeup on Mr. Boakai. That is done in many cases, but to see that the pictures and the videos, they are released to the public, and I know VOA released them. If he had come and focused on Liberia, there won't be no makeup for him in the first place. But if that happened, or if that were to happen, we're not going to release those things to the public. So the whole idea that when it's foreign is good, it is something that is haunting us as a people, and we really need to come to face it and make a change on that. That said, Dennis, I think you people are talking about the cabinet as well. What kind of cabinet maybe we hope to see on Joseph Boakai. The assumption here is that Mr. Boakai will do all his best to get quote unquote qualified people with the academic credentials. We will get those people. And I want to argue that that has never been our problem to a greater extent. Finding individuals who might have the requisite academic credentials to be able to serve in government. I think our problem, like Mr. Boakai said in your interview, is implementation, executing your duties and responsibilities, as an official of government. That is what has been our problem. So Mr. Boakai will get all the qualified people, to my belief, but whether these qualified people will be able to execute their duties in a very robust way to bring about a change that we are all hungry for, that is left to be seen. Now, talking about shaking tables are needed to be turned in Liberia, because the way we've done things over the years have not been satisfactory at all. Is Boakai the kind of character who will shake table? I doubt it. And Karibu is right. He has no history of shaking tables. Boakai is good at making promises that he will make things happen, and he will not. But this is what I've learned from individuals who are in Boakai's circle, that he is extremely stubborn. It can become a positive thing. If he's bent on ensuring that people will be audited to the full extent of audit, whatever that audit means, maybe he will do it. But another thing about Boakai we know is he is very inconsistent. He cannot work under pressure. And now he's in this job, will be in this job that comes with a lot of pressure, a lot of competing interests. You're hearing from so many people. In Boakai's case, always difficult for him to make a decision. We saw that with the CPP. I'm not going to go far back. It was in this very America, I believe it was the very VOA where Boakai was interviewed when he said, I have the track record of resolving issues. When I get to Liberia, the internal wranglings in the CPP will be resolved. This is the elder statement saying Liberians needed those issues to be resolved to put on a united opposition that will defeat Weah. Thank God Weah is defeated today, and Boakai did that. Maybe that's one thing we can give him credit. He said, I am the only man to take Weah down, and he did it. But it took a lot of help from so many people. And that what he knew, for which he said, I will resolve the internal wranglings in the CPP when I get to Monrovia. But guess what happened? Boakai was pulled away by people in his cycle that, no, don't do this. Because to unite the CPP, you might not get your way. We'll do it the other way. And so, audit, Boakai, it will need a lot of strength and leadership. And Boakai does not have that kind of impressive leadership that will be needed to audit these individuals. Here's the thing. Most of the people that must be audited are in Boakai's cycle. There is Boakai sitting with Stanton upon arriving in the United States. The first image that we saw of our president-elect was with an individual who stole from the U.S. government, and this is the man he was comfortable sitting with. If Mr. Boakai was comfortable to sit with a U.S. criminal with no remorse whatsoever, tell me, those that are working in government that be working for him, those are the ones he's going to audit? Then it's the whole other thing here. It should be something that should be done to bring about trust. But sadly, the president-elect that we have is not the kind of character who will get that kind of job done. I'm
Can
sorry.
I, Mr. C, how do you know Boakai is not good at under pressure? The man was vice president for 12 years. Have you heard anything about him, a scandal or outbursts or fighting with the president for 12 years? Have you?
You are talking outbursts. I'm talking about leadership when it's needed.
No. I'm talking about he was vice president for 12 years. Have you heard anything that contradicted his job that made him not be a vice president or not? That's something that showed him to be irresponsible for 12 years.
I gave him the failure he had as leader of the CPP.
The
I will
CPP
also give you
is-
another example.
No.
when
The
he
CPP
became-
is a political accommodation, and he said, "I will solve it." He solved it his own way, which meant he broke down, and he was the only one standing. That's how he wanted to solve it.
Thank you. If you go to the vice presidency, he said he was packed, so maybe that's why he did not.
Well,
You didn't hear any of the things that you were saying, Mr. Dr. Duplin.
okay.
Because if you're packed, then you don't do much, right?
Dennis, I think you have to push back on Anthony a little bit. Otherwise, I will. Dr.
please.
Duplin started doing that.
I think you should do.
Yeah, I think it's unfair. I know you are a media person to say, imply or insinuate otherwise that you haven't seen record of Mr. Boakai. Some of what he says he would do haven't done in the past. You can't have somebody who has been in public service this long to say here that he has no record of the kind of leadership that you want to see, a strong progressive leadership. No, he always points to his LPLC days, LPMC days. Maybe those are days bygone. You were too young to remember. I guess some of the LPMC was a progressive sort of cooperative hub that brought a lot of revenue to Liberia. I was young too, but our parents will sell cocoa to them. The people were making money. So this man worked with the Ministry of Agriculture as the minister, the agriculture sector. That's when they used to say Lofa and Nima County were bread baskets of the country. So he actually has been a very strong leader who has produced. I'm not Boakai, the spokesperson. No, do I have any affiliation with Unity Party? Let me just give that disclaimer. But as an observer, an objective observer, you as a media person, when you speak with evidence. The CPP question you're talking about, look, in politics, you resolve disputes in all sorts of manners. He said, when I get to Monrovia, the CPP problem will be resolved in the way he resolved it. Because if something is irresolvable, what do? You extricate yourself and the matter dissipates. It was Hillary Clinton who once said this matter would dissipate by the weight of its own insignificance. Maybe the problem in the CPP, as we all saw, it was one that was not easily resolvable. Cummings wanted to be the standard bearer. Boakai's people were sure that he was the one who was going to be the standard bearer, and so too the others. What did you expect him to do? He resolved it the way he saw best to resolve, and the result is today we see he's the president-elect. He's going to be our president sworn in come to 22nd of January. So I think those are, strong words without real strong facts or evidence to back them. Boakai's people will say he's a strong leader. You have to understand leadership styles. I spoke about this before on this show. There are different ways of leadership. You ought to understand. Just because you haven't seen a leader who has high energy, perhaps high charisma, and they're moving, they're talking, that is not the only leadership style. There are leaders who don't even talk. They don't talk at all. Yet they are very strong, powerful leaders. So I just wanted to register that so that you can sort of have a fair analysis of these things.
And you have a point there. You were saying simply that because he won, the end justifies the means. So that was
it's not simple. It's not as simple as that the end justifies the means. We actually saw that he outmaneuvered the whole process. This was a complex. CPP was an impossible political alliance. I mean, let's be honest about it. We are aware of what Mr. Cummings people would not agree with this, but the sort of the machinations that were happening, so that the so-called convention, also who were buying whom to vote for whom, and broadcast people were not going to allow that. They look at numbers, they look at constituents, they look at people who were on whose side, and then the whole wrangling about the framework document, the legality, and some of the clauses. We can't go and relitigate all of that.
Right.
But the point I'm making is, when you're in a complex conflict, you try to resolve it in a way that it's like in a negotiation.
Right.
It's not always a win-win, right?
Right.
It's somebody wins, somebody loses. It wasn't a mediation here.
Thank you. So
if I can just throw in 30 seconds, Dennis, I think also when we when we look at the Boakai's leadership over the CPP, and then look at it, compare it to Alexander Cummings and compare it to Benena Ure, the first people, because it was done alphabetically. I think Benena Ure was the first, and then Cummings came in, and then Yombly. The conflict even started when Yombly was even head of the CPP, because they were getting closer to this issue of actually deciding who was going to be the standard bearer, and then that person was going to select. So I think
I don't think it was alphabetical, because Alex Cummings, Benena Ure is you.
B.
There will be Alex will be first. Then
they started with Ure. I don't know how they did it, but it was Ure, and then it was But the point I'm making,
it was haphazardly done.
Right. But the point I'm making is that Boakai became the head of the CPP when they were at this critical point of selecting the leadership, when it became very contentious. So to say he's not a good leader compared to those who served earlier, when they were all in union as a single team moving along and the selection was not done, I think it's an unfair way to assess his leadership ability by just singularly looking at the CPP. And even after the VOA interview, some of the town halls that he had in America, Liberian citizens were saying to him, if this thing is not going to work, why don't you decide to do otherwise? Because we're not making progress. Every day is just noise. Block voting. No, we don't want block voting. Or the other person say, I'm going to pay all of the delegates that I'm going to come. I'm going to buy them. And you don't have money. So I think CPP is not a good measurement of just using that singular point to reference somebody's leadership ability, if you put into context that point in time.
Right. Thank you. It's just that we don't have enough, because most of these areas Mr. Boakai has been in, we like the LPMC. It was good. How was he responsible? We don't have records. Right?
Well, I can tell you something about the LPMC. That Boakai trouble came because Victoria Tolbert went to Lofa and wanted 10 or 20 bags of rice to be given to people. And Boakai said, well, has she paid for it? And they said, who that talking? That's what happened.
Right. And that's the first time I'm hearing this. So
okay, no, you can ask people. It's actually in his book. He published it in a book. If you read a book, he's in a book, so he will not lie.
The one written by Malapai?
Yeah.
Then quickly here, I mentioned by giving Joseph Boakai credit that he is the only one to take President we are down. He did that. Amen and others didn't care to reference that, right? But the only thing they are picking on is my assessment that Joseph Boakai is not the kind of robust leader who will be able to shake tables. He's never shaken tables before. I can see how he does it now. So Mr. Boakai, as a leader, will always go to someone from Ways, Means, and Finance. Ways, Means, and Finance at the legislature is a gateway to fraud and abuse of public trust. There where Mr. Boakai will always go. Nunkwe was his pick for first vice president. Now we have Jeremiah Kuhn, Ways and Means. The guy he also picked, who was a campaign manager for Unity Party in Bond County, Prince Moy, Ways and Means. These individuals that I just mentioned, go and check behind them the property they have as a result of them serving in those capacities. Why is Mr. Boakai always in this constant habit of working closely with individuals who we all know, publicly speaking, are corrupt? Why? Is that the man you think going to shake table? Mr. Boakai is one of those persons who also promised that he will bring the war crown. You expect he will do it? Do you believe so? Mr. Amara Conan is also being accused that he was involved in corruption when he served in government. Who controls Mr. Boakai now by the nose? It's Amara. Will Mr. Boakai be able to audit Amara? You think that's going to happen? I don't think so. So let me clear. And my final point I make here is that when Joseph Boakai became the head of Unity Party, after Ellen left power, what happened? Unity Party went in flames. Officials and individuals of Unity Party, they were insulting Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
Yeah.
Did Boakai resolve the issue? I can go on and on. So for people to come here and so Anthony doesn't have facts, and all they want, if you expect me to praise a man when the records
nobody, Anthony,
we're not going to get it. We're going to litigate the facts here. And all I said here, these are all based on facts.
Those are not facts. Dennis,
No, but what are your facts? I meant to praise Boakai. That your facts?
No. Look at the Unity Party example is giving. When President Sirleaf, you have to understand politics. I know you are the host of the Hour of Politics. Dr. Duke is here. He was in government with President Sirleaf. Now, I was working for
these things
an international organization, but as a Liberian, I was in Liberia during that time.
I want us to move on.
Yeah, it was more complicated than you're making it sound. That's not. This was the Boakai who said to some
the president said it be more complicated than these things I'm talking about.
The Boakai who said to President Sirleaf,
succeed with the presidency.
Who said to President Sirleaf, your boss, the sitting outgoing president, if you believe you did nothing wrong, why ask for protection? I'm not going to promise to protect one single family. Somebody who wasn't even elected here. How do we get to Mr. Weir? So it's more complicated than that. I mean, of course, the president, Sirleaf, then was the head of the party. She's leaving. And then there's that kind of political dispute with foreign or vice president. Of course, you expect that the individuals that support them separately will go their separate ways. There were things that happened, couldn't have happened. They should have both leaders should have done something to bring the party together. We believe they didn't provide leadership. They had some kind of thing between them. But it's more complex than just saying it was Boakai's responsibility entirely to unite the party.
I think the party was broken. I think the party was broken. Can I say
Hold on, Gongolo, let Dr. Douglas say something, and then you come. And
I think my problem with Anthony's issue is that, Boakai has never been president before.
What a poor excuse. We're talking leadership.
No. Okay, you see. Okay, then. Okay, Gongolo, go ahead.
On what basis you think
I'm done. No, I'm done. I said he's never been president. You say that's an excuse. I'm not going to talk to you about that. We don't have to fight about these things. Gongolo, you can go on because I don't think it makes sense to you.
No. So
it makes sense to me, Dr. Douglas. So continue, please.
No. I'm done. Gongolo, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Gongolo.
Well, I was just trying to find out from Admet. Admet said President Boakai said public, it's public record now. I'm not sure that he told Ellen that Ellen went to him for protection, and he told Ellen, if you didn't do anything wrong, why do you ask for protection? Is that documented?
Well, it was stated earlier here. Was it Dr. Dua Thomas who said it?
I said it.
Thomas said this is public. Yeah.
He said it. He said Boakai said it publicly.
Boakai said that. We said that at that time he didn't play politician. That was not a good politics.
I just want to be sure. Where can I read that? I like to read that.
Not everything political is documented, Mr. Gongolo.
So what you saying here now is something you heard from the grapevine?
That was the narrative from the 2017 elections. You've not heard it?
You know why? You know the reason why?
Boakai did say that. Boakai said that.
He said that.
Ahmed, the reason why I hold that with a grain of salt,
because that's my
Ellen
evidence.
Johnson Sirleaf is so educated, and she was surrounded with top-notch lawyers, in Liberia. Okay, to know that Article 61 of our Constitution, she understands that there is no way she will go to someone come to succeed her and say, I want to protect,
because
even
this is back in the negotiation.
Thank you, guys. I want us to move to our last.
Yeah, let's move on. Otherwise,
let's
move. No, but if
she knows under the Constitution she's protected.
or family.
But during
Robert Sali was not protected by Article 61.
We really, that was part of the policies that we heard.
And during why
So let's move on to our last point, which is the budget. I want us to go to the last point, which is one of the road ahead of Mr. Boakai, is the budget. You've heard that the recast budget, I mean, we're recasting almost in the middle of December. That should tell you something. And recast means what you look for, what you were anticipating. Probably you didn't get all the revenue, or you didn't get the things that were supposed to happen didn't happen. So you're trying to make some changes with the budget. And so the recast just passed in December, right? Now we have a new budget that is a 2024. And in that recast, I had the numbers there. Because normally we used to say budget shortfall. This time now the recast, because there's a shortfall, but we don't hear that word quite often, but that's what's going on. Now we have for the new budget 2024 that has been drafted. In that budget, we have the total is 625 million. Yeah, I think I got that correct. 625 million, that's the budget. Of that amount, we have 500, according to the deputy minister, 594.5 million on recurring expenses, with only 31 million for us to do any project, anything. That's just 31 million. Okay. And also she said we have almost everything, only 2 million is coming from external source of our revenue. The rest is locally generated. The two things that stood out to me, well, Boakai government even have the money to pay civil servants. There's a story reported in the papers that they say, hey, we don't even have money to pay the people before Christmas. There are some ministries, they say they still owing them November. So with this budget, will we have money for President Boakai to pay civil servants, to do those things that needs to be done? Like, for example, we've been complaining about a very dirty Monrovia. Will there be money to clean it? Will we have money to even do some of the things that we did, or will he just cancel them, like the free tuition and all those kind of things? So let's look at the budget and see what is ahead of Mr. Boakai. Let me start with you, Dr. Dukley.
I'm not a budget person.
Will there be money?
Really, what I can say is that, if we are, I've heard the same story you heard, that they're not going to be able to pay people before Christmas. It kind of tells you the kind of government you had, that was not prepared to govern, but got into it and then mess it up. This is an election year. As a president, if you know you're going to go into election, no matter what, the amount of these 2-3 months supposed to be like celebrations. Either you win or not. If you expect to win, so therefore you make sure there's money to pay people to celebrate with you at New Year's and all of that, and to go to inauguration. But I guess not. There's no money. There's no money. What are you going to do? And maybe, this is maybe where Boakai talking to people at the World Bank, at the IMF, although I'm sure he knows that those institutions do not develop countries. They don't. They're just stopgap measures. Maybe because that's where he may get some money to pay people in the next 2-3 months, because he doesn't have money. He's not going to find it anywhere else. ADB does not have money, so he has to find it. Where he's going to say, hey, I'm out. January 22nd, he's out. He's, former president, whatever he did, as Gonglu said under Article 66, he can say, you know what, I was president, I signed these bills. We don't have money, I'm going home. So what are you going to do? Nothing. You're going to find money someplace. And that's when I say, sometimes when you say people managing the expectation, those are the things that happen, that the president's coming in. If he's sworn in on January 22nd and people are not getting paid for 2 months, you think his first promise would be, but what about the cards not stuck in the mud for, in the next 100 years? No, he wants to get money to pay people. How is he going to do that? Who's going to find the money? Who has access to money? These are where, the presidency becomes like, okay, gamemanship. You get into deals that you don't expect to make, but you have to do it because tomorrow you have to pay people. And that's the reality of power.
Thank you. Mr. Sia, normally what we saw Mr. Tua doing, he said, well, we are behind one more with salaries. So HPX, you got 30 million, give it to me. Now it appears to me that some of our government took advance payment of these things. So with Mr. Boakai coming in and looking at the budget, we see some challenges here. I see my friend Morris saying, hey, he doesn't take over until the pay I'm talking about is not December pay. I mean, after Boakai takes over, will there be money to do the things that he wants to do or he's supposed to do, Mr. Sia?
Well, Dennis, if we should listen to Finance Minister Samuel Twer, one will assume that there will be money. Twer boasted that they have increased significantly the amount of money in our national reserve, far more than what Unity Party left there. If anything, dare to believe Samuel Twer, then they should have money when they take over, but I don't believe Samuel Twer. It was the very Samuel Twer guy who said that they were experiencing surplus, and Liberia has surplus. That turned out to be false. So I don't think so. So Samuel Twer has a history of lying. In fact, the Samuel Twer Finance Ministry said that the Liberian government has been raising record-breaking revenue. But then he couldn't find, I think, about $24 million to resolve issues with the electricity and even RRA, right? So I don't think there will be money for the incoming administration. And that is why I pitied the government that is coming in. What are they going to do? I think Thomas can correct me here. If I'm not mistaken, I think they are not generating significant revenue, even though Samuel Twer will want you to believe. The budget, at some point, according to them, they were able to take it to $800 million, and now it dropped to 625. Budget shortfall is Liberia history now. It was with Amara, Twer pick it up. So I don't think the incoming government will have a good start when it comes to money, and so I pity them. How are they going to do it? Is that why Amara is way ahead running to his friends in the World Bank so that they will burden up with another debt because that's the only solution that they have? I would think they have no good options there for them to jumpstart this thing. So, and then let me comment on the issue of the budget. The budget is just a projection, and when these projections are made, most of the time, the actual can't really reflect what has been projected. That's why we always have budget shortfall. So to answer your question, no, I doubt that there will be money. Now the current government has not paid civil servants for Christmas. Today is the 21st. We have 33 days before the day is set. When will they start paying the people before they get? You think if they have money, they will not pay them, they will pay them. So I don't see how the incoming government will have a good start. And these are some of the challenges Mr. Boakai will have to face head on before coming to even the promise that no car will get stuck in the mud. And he repeated that in the excellent interview he had. And I mean that. I don't know how that's going to be accomplished in the 100 days.
Mr. Salif, what you think of it? Especially, we want this sharp contrast with the outgoing weird government. When it comes to this cleaning the city, for instance, when it comes to paying civil servants, when it comes to, because even when your children, when you buy them a piece of fry, to even get one back is not easy. So now you have this thing where we are just stood up somewhere and say, hey, free tuition, free this, free that. Now you can take these things back and Mr. Boakai will have to pay for them. Where is he going to get money from? And then we also learn that there is a slow economic growth and there are debts already being inherited that we have to pay for.
Dennis, I think there are fundamental questions that we have to answer about governance in Liberia. We have to recast the entire economy, not just the budget, really. By that, I mean, we focus too much on recurring costs, the wage bill, just salary. Yes, it's important. I'm not minimizing the importance of paying civil servants, especially during this Christmas season, these festive seasons. Of course, people should be paid so they can celebrate with their families. But government is more than just paying civil servants, bloating the wage bill, and so that we have nothing to really do capital investment. Yes, I mean, the President-elect Boakai is in Washington, probably mobilizing short-term resources. That happens. These multilateral bodies, they have a way of providing stopgap for you. There are various mechanisms through which that is possible. It's fair for any new government coming to office to try to have access to some of those types of resources. However, we have to go beyond, as I said, just recurrent costs. When you would keep the light on, pay people so they come to work, pay people to come to work. We have to expand the economy, as like Thomas said in the beginning. How do you expand the economy? There are many, those who are economists will tell you, many what they call macroeconomic levels that they can pull to be able to put money in the private sector to expand other base, revenue base. For instance, we know that we are a big extraction economy. That's an area that government look to try to be able to mobilize resources, revenue. But there are other ways that we can mobilize revenue. I think it was Monday now, yesterday, we were talking about we don't even know how much iron ore exactly, for example, that these companies extract from our natural resources. We don't know. We have to be able to calculate those. It could be that we're losing tremendous amounts of money. My point is, there are ways right in Liberia that we can domestically mobilize resources and revenue to build our budget beyond $1 billion. This is possible. There are countries our size, our characteristics, similar problems, similar populations have more than $1 billion budget. That they're talking 2-3 billions, and they're doing big things. I mean, of course, people will push back that, oh, you guys always compare with different countries. Every country is unique. That's true. But I'm challenging this incoming administration to be ambitious. Be ambitious. Like President Salif will say, right? Your ambition, if it doesn't scare you, then you're not ambitious enough. That's where we have to be as a country. So I believe when we focus too much on just how can we temporarily, quickly pay our civil servants so we get through the Christmas season, we've been, I don't know how else to describe that. So if this government will do some of the big table shakings that we're talking about, some of the ambitious things of auditing, maybe asset recovery, integrity, fighting corruption, curbing things. There are other things that you have to do. As you do that, you stop these spillage gaps and try to minimize and mitigate corruption. But you also have to grow the economy, and people, Liberians, know how to do that. We do have qualified, educated, competent Liberians all over the world, including in Liberia, who can move forward to be able, so that, coming back to your point, Dennis, so that we don't have to come here every year or every month. Can we even pay salaries? Imagine that. Can we even pay government employees, public sector employees? That's not the conversation we should be having. That encourages corruption. So if people, that little salaries that they earn, can receive them on a regular basis every month, these people will be a motivated workforce. And that's what we need in order to be a better country.
Yeah, and do I hear you saying that you recognize that it's going to be tough?
I do.
So within that 100 days that we're talking about, where no car will be stuck in the mud and paying civil servants and cleaning the city, do you think those things are achievable?
They are
achievable. He reiterated that in his interview, that he said, look, when I say no car vehicle will be stuck in the mud, I mean it. There are parts of the roads that we know how to fix.
I know, but if you're not even able to pay salary, we don't have money to do it. Will you be able to do those extra ones?
We do. Look, government is complex. I mean, it's complex than we are trying to discuss here, right? In terms of the budget, what we see in the budget, yes, we look at the budget as it is. We can say, no, they don't have money, right? There are all kinds of news we're hearing outgoing. People are paying themselves, and so the coffers seemingly will be empty when the Boakai administration takes office. Yes, that's the picture that we. But I'm here to challenge you and say now that it is very possible that some of these meetings they're having You can mobilize external resources for the short term. That is very possible. Again, I said that you can mobilize external resources. You give them, until you are able to put together your development plan, your vision for how you run the country, how you fund the development plans, until you're able to put that on the table for investors, for donors, and others to look at in a short run. Look at what in the reserve, what revenue do we have? Does this administration have access to come into office? What external partners, multilateral and bilateral partners even can chip in to assist, let's say 6 months or so, or even for a year, until the government is able then to mobilize these resources, both domestically and externally, to be able to govern fiscally responsibly.
Thank you. Mr. Gonglo, someone was telling me, an economist I spoke with, say, I think the government needs extra 500 million every year to keep the government afloat. So we see that over 90% of our money is spent on salaries. So looking at will now salary were harmonized, will the Boakai government looking at the money we have? Number one, since about 90% of the revenue is domestically or locally generated, will we have that capacity to raise that much revenue to be able to even reach the 590 or some million that is projected for revenue, because only 2 million is coming from external sources. Number two, will there be some, because according what we learned was, President, we have brought a lot of people into government. Will there be that way back, or the 1980 structural adjustment, fire people, make the government smaller? Will you be looking at reducing salaries, like for those in the, I mean, you look at speaker alone, 2 million, this person. Is that what in the short term Boakai will be doing to at least get some money?
Yeah, what I would say. The problem in Liberia, like others have said, in other forms, is not the absence of laws. It's a lack of implementation. On the finance and the budget, I would say this. It's not that we don't have money. We can actually raise more than $1 billion through domestic revenue generation. We can do that.
How so?
What is happening in Liberia is the classic failure of the ruling class, the political class. They don't pay taxes. On this very show, if we call some of the UP guys who serve in the UP government, I pride myself as the only person who built a house in Liberia and willingly went to my house is, in fact, in the rural area. It's in Fender, in Magibi, Lower Magibi. I walked to LRA and I said to the agent, I pay taxes in the United States to develop United States. I want to pay the same taxes here for the house I built to develop Liberia. And I pay my taxes up to this point. I can bet if we call some of the guys who serve as minister proper, both in the WIA government and the city government, they don't pay taxes on all those properties, and the government don't go after them. We can do this. But firstly, I would say let's have a president that will even mandate that all of the presidential appointees must show evidence of paying taxes on their real estate possession, on their assets. Because that's one way to begin. Because the data is right there. If you appoint 33 persons, you can have 33 persons to begin to pay taxes on all their assets in the country. That is a classic example that will have others follow suit to say, hey,
Mr. Gonglo, you said that if the UP government people pay taxes, are you saying the WIA government people pay taxes? Is that why you mentioned UP?
I'm saying both UP government officials and the CDC government.
Oh, okay.
Many of them don't pay real estate taxes. I know this for facts because
now
I walk into LRA to pay my taxes, to register and pay my taxes voluntarily. I sat there and I had conversation with a lot of people. In fact, some of my former students were there. I didn't know one of them who called me comrade. He said, "Why are you calling me comrade?" He said, think again, because my students in Tottenham, we used to call each other comrades. He said, where you and your students used to call each other comrades? I said, that's Tottenham. And he said, yes, I will help you, comrade.
So what should the Boakai government do now?
So the challenge Boakai has, the immediate challenge is, sometimes I think this year or last year, Liberia moved to the common system in West Africa.
The calendar year.
Yeah, the calendar year. Now, the fiscal year ends December 31st. If this budget does not pass, it's going to present a challenge for Boakai, the incoming government, in January and February, because they are going to be busy trying to confirm ministers, the Minister of Finance, and the deputies, and what have you. They will be busy trying to do that. And when you do that, they too have to taxi, they have to text her, and so many things will happen before they begin to even do actual work. Okay, so that whole thing, because there is a law on the PFN law that if the budget does not pass, I think either 112 or something will be approved of that budget just to pay the operations of government, to keep government operating, right? But to do so, you have to have the officials in place to implement that. Those who carry on that are the presidential appointees. They are the ones going to the legislature. They are the ones doing this. So they are all leaving, except where President Boakai will say, hey, for now, until we have the new Minister of Finance and the deputies, I want all, maybe management to stay in place until we have this, and let's begin to do this. So there has to be some way, somehow to do this. But, I think the immediate challenge is the budget. According to the legislature, they said they want the 55th legislature to act on the budget submitted by the WIA government. And I know for sure whoever will be the finance minister is going to record our budget, and begin to rework it before they submit it. They're not going to act on the budget submitted by Minister Toy. They're going to record that and do their own budget that will reflect their political, because budget is a political document. They're going to record that budget and resubmit it to reflect their programs for the first year. So it's going to take some time before we actually have a real budget, probably by March or April. Okay, so that's my own assumption. It's not fact. So nobody should argue with me on this. I'm assuming.
The big question is, will Boakai, where will he get money from to run the government when he starts? Just the first few.
Well, I'm arguing that Boakai can get money, low-hanging fruit locally. LRA is raising a lot of money. Because LRA is collecting a lot of taxes every month. It's corruption. Corruption both in the UP and the CDC government that got our country to struggle.
Thank you.
LRA collects a lot of money because Dennis, I said this.
But a lot of money is not a figure. I mean, you tell me how much LRA is collecting that is able to keep the government afloat.
For the record, every single year for the past 5 years, LRA has met their revenue target and beyond. Thomas is here. He can prove me wrong. To the best of my knowledge, it will come in the news flash that LRA just met their revenue target. Follow Thomas Doe 9. In fact, he posted that on his Facebook page. They are meeting our revenue. What the problem is, the management side of the revenue they collect. Okay, that's part of the challenge. It's not that LRA is not collecting. They are meeting our revenue target. Domestic revenue mobilization, they are meeting our target. Every year for the past.
I think Dennis' point is they're meeting a target, but that is not enough to effectively fund the government. That's the sad part.
Let me move on to Thomas. I don't know why they were all in this rush to change to January to December calendar. I don't know. They never took transition into consideration. Now it's coming back to Thomas. My question to you is: 31 million is for it's only 31 million we have for anything that we want to do as a government besides salary. According to the law, I think it was you quoted that we need 15% of the revenue to be towards, or of our budget to go towards education if we will meet that standard, right? 15% of what we have, the budget today is 93 million. So that 31 million is not even able to clean Pinsville. Where the money going to come from?
So if I may just respond to why we moved to the January to December fiscal year, that was to align with West Africa as a region. Yeah,
we
because
always want to do.
we were the only outlier. And then if it came to transactions within the region, you will still say, okay, my budget year goes to this point, and then the other person is saying my budget year starts at this point. So the only amendment that happened to the PFM law, the Public Financial Management Law, under Minister Tue, is that amendment that transitioned us to this fiscal year of January to December. And they also elevated the division of the Controller and Accountant General to a department in the Ministry of Finance. So right now you don't have only 4 deputy ministers, you have 5 deputy ministers. And that amendment took place in 2019. So this is why we have transition. On the issue of the reserve, we can say no, because the IMF program that we were in, portion of those resources that came to the IMF program were to boost our reserve. Because the reason why the IMF comes in to stabilize these economies is that they don't want a country to affect global trade. If Liberia does not have the ability to have resources to import goods and services, it affects other countries. You no longer go to China, you won't be able to buy oil from Nigeria and other countries. So the 216 million that we got from the IMF, part of it went towards our reserve. So Samuel to already have no control over that. That money had to go there. He couldn't use it like he used the rule for money to pay salaries. So that means our reserve went up. On the issue of the debt, yes, I think former Minister Boakai and others have done a lot of work on this. The debt is also very high. So we don't have a lot of room over there to maneuver. On the issue of the budget, I would think more for the fact that the budget is mostly domestic revenue, and that the Ministry of Finance over the years has developed some capacity on revenue forecasting. Because normally when the budget comes out, people only look at the expenditure component of it, but the budget had two components: the revenue envelope and then the expenditure portion of it. So the Ministry of Finance has some capacity now to do revenue forecasting that is much more realistic. So if the budget is based entirely on domestic revenue, we can be assured that there might not be a lot of problem with meeting the resource envelope that is in there, even though our growth right now is very limited. On the issue of do we have money, every day money goes into the consolidated account. The real issue is that, like I think one of the other persons said, is it sufficient? Because our wage bill in terms of salary, I think it's around 30 million or so. I don't know what the exact figure is, but every month you need that amount to be able to pay these salaries. So if JMB is going to take over January 22, the expectation is that we are going to pay hopefully for January, or I mean, because it's paid at the end of the month, they might transition it. But the point is, will he have $90 million to pay for the first three months before he can settle down? But every day, money enters the consolidated account, because when you import through the pre-fold, you are going to pay money. If you buy any product in that country, you are going to pay service, you are going to pay the GST. Anybody that passes through the airport, you are going to pay taxes. So money is coming in. It's not like we get to a point where no money comes in and we say there's no money in the consolidated account. Money is going to come in. Whether it's enough is going to be the issue.
Right.
So
and that's the issue we're talking.
No. So for me, that depends on what the forecast is and what are the sources that are forecast. If you look at the budget, if it is coming from taxes related to goods and services and all of that, it comes in, and we are going to have that money. Then the next thing is that with JMB coming in, there are different measures that you have to take to be able to address this issue. Because right now the place we have is that we have a fiscal space issue. And the only place it's going to turn to is raise more domestic revenue, which you don't do drastically. It will have to take time to grow the economy. You can do deficit financing because we just printed a lot of Liberian dollars. We're just trying to roll it out so we can have space in that area. Then the next thing they will have to do is to efficiently manage. If you get somebody $2, make sure they use it for that purpose and they efficiently use it. So even under the 600 million that you have, which is all domestic revenue, you can take 1 year or 6 months to be able to manage it efficiently until you be able to attract some official development assistant. Because if you have a fiscal space problem, that's one area you look at. One of the development agencies that gave on budget support is the European Union. Are they willing to come in and give you some money? Or the World Bank gives you a grant, like Ahmed was saying. So when people criticize that, okay, he's in DC, he's having all this meeting, why doesn't he go back to Liberia? Short-term financing, in many instances, a bridge financing to help you settle down and put your foot down and look at where you can get money from, you will need it. If it comes as a loan, then of course you are increasing the debt burden. In most instances, you want a grant to come in, which you might not have to pay back. The other places that we have to look is those state-owned enterprises that we have in Liberia. How much is Maritime, for instance, contributing to this budget? Can they increase what they are contributing? Can they slow down some of their investment projects that they want to invest in the NUCA, all of these entities? So I think it's going to be a very tedious work. They have to pay attention to details, look at all the revenue sources and see what they can squeeze from there to be able to really craft a better budget. And I think it is good for the 54th legislature to move it over to the 55th. And when they come, they want to recall it and do it back, because I always think that when the new government comes, they are going to recast this budget. The resources might not have gone to their priorities. If there was no money put in the budget for cars not to get stuck on the road, JMB will need that money. And therefore, they will need to recast the budget. So if they don't pass it, it gives them that opportunity. But I think it's going to be, the next couple of months are going to be a bit complex. But I think the team that is coming into place, many of them have been in government before. They managed through Ebola, they managed through crisis. I think they will be able to get across this.
Yeah, yes, but if I can just add here quickly, Dennis.
I was telling Thomas, I say, how you know the team? We have no hint who's coming in.
So Thomas says something about Maritime. I'm not sure about LPRC, NUCA, and Freeport, but I know under the PFN reform, when the World Bank talk about putting all the money in one part to see how it is coming out of that part, the Maritime was one of the institutions at the time under Antoinette Sayed that actually finance ministry took over. That all the funds from Maritime went strictly into that consolidated account, and I think some percentage was going to Maritime for operation or something like that. So Maritime doesn't really have that control over whatever they collect from those who fly in Liberian flag anymore. It goes straight to finance ministry.
Thank you.
Central Bank on the consolidated.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday. We will just commit 10 minutes to calls, right? So if you have a question, comment, please call quickly, and you will have just 1 minute to speak. At this time, we're going to shift to our Tabata of the week. I think you missed it, right? So let's go. I mean, every day there's Tabata that is going on, and Tabata in the crew speaking language means foolishness. Thomas, any foolishness you want to talk about?
Go ahead. Let me try to maybe get my Tabata.
Mr. CA, what's your Tabata of the week?
Yeah, then I think I mentioned my Tabata earlier, but I'll restate that because it's a big Tabata. Our president-elect had a great interview with VOA. I enjoy it. This is Mr. Boakai, second time having an interview that I enjoyed. The one he had when he was with the CPP, I did an analysis of that. I praised him very significantly. He was sharp to the point. I like when he does that, something President Boakai is not able to do, right? But here's a Tabata from there. How come this VOA that's supposed to be the gold standard that Mr. Boakai must go to, this is a U.S. government propaganda media institution. That is what it is. Why Mr. Boakai can't go on CNN? The last time I saw Didier Drogba is on CNN. Why the president-elect of Liberia can't be on CNN or MSNBC? These are the major media institutions people in the United States watch, right? Why VOA? But the Tabata of it all, now they're doing our president-elect makeup. and they're releasing the video to the public. They're releasing the pictures to the public. That is complete tabata.
Thank you. Mr. Salif, your tabata of the week.
I think my tabata is the the Lapu and Kema or red flag thing that can just be trending, this dude who apparently was married before and never divorced and got married again. And just a big tabata. In Liberia has a dual system. You have the traditional legal system, you have the statutory legal system. You can marry polygamy, it's not illegal in Liberia. Under the dual system. So I don't know. I thought it was a big much ado about nothing really. Where yeah, I guess social media can just get it sort of lit up with controversy. That was one of such. I don't know. I don't want to go into political tabata. I have several of those, but I just leave it.
Right, and really, honestly, that's one issue I didn't want to even watch. I saw it trending, and I just refused to even. Mr. Gonglo, what's your tabata of the week?
Well, my tabata of the week is last Sunday. I actually watched for maybe 10 minutes Prince Johnson church service. Not the preaching. I just went to the picture. The number of people that went to Prince Johnson church and the post-service interview that I watched from some of the people and some of the things that I heard from them, I was actually shocked. And I just said to myself, whoever said there are three kinds of people, you got, I don't know, white people, black people, then you got Liberian, that person was correct. That was a profound philosophical statement that person made. For Prince Johnson to be, and he called people to stand up to convert to Jesus Christ, to accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, and they bowed down and he was praying and they believe that it's a God sent. And for me, it's a tabata for me. It's utter nonsense for the faith that I believe in.
Thank you. Dr. Dugley.
My tabata of the week. This battle between Amara and Twe about who's more corrupt, who's more efficient. No, okay, let's leave that. My tabata of the week is the ambassador at the UN saying that the minister disobeyed the president, and she knew what the president told the minister. Because I said, no, if you're working as the ambassador, your boss is the minister. So if you come up and release and make a press release and say, oh, the order I received from the minister, it was the minister who, did not follow the president's directives. I think that's totally amateurish politics. Ambassadors don't speak to and say the president did this and the minister didn't follow, so I follow the minister. That makes sense to anyone? That's my tabata.
Thank you. Thomas, you ready now or you want me to go?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Duke left it, but let me talk about it a bit. I mean, this Amara Samuel Twe, and then on this other side, you have Samuel Twe, young people in CDC, they writing and reposting all of the responses, and they say, okay, this guy, you can't even challenge him. He's the best finance minister. This guy has just been sanctioned for corruption. So everything you did for 6 years, the same thing you did. Oh, George Weah is Liberia's best president since 1847. He has just been defeated. Samuel Twe has not even completed the 6 years. He has been sanctioned. But yet they learn no lesson. They stay on Facebook, putting him out there. I mean, he's the best finance minister and all of that. And then one of the things he posts in one of his responses is that the framework document that he used, he equating it to a treasury bill. that when Amara was finance minister, he issued a treasury bill that commercial banks pay up to $6 billion. In today's dollars, that would be around $30 or $32 million. But this is something that should have led to a concession. How can you say that is a treasury bill? So, I mean, it's just too confusing. And with all of his followers, with all the things that they were saying, I was just saying to one, and I responded to one of my friends that Tue is at this point really traumatized. So anything that comes to his mind is just going to put it out there. So everything he and his followers are doing to me is a pure tabata.
Right. The man down already, Amara punching him. So how will he not be traumatized? The man going out, he's sanctioned, and you beating the man.
And 1 minute, there's this a post that came back on Facebook, and they say, where is the posting for all of Liberia post-war finance ministers? Antonio Said, IMF, Augustine Kwehenga African Development Bank, Amara Kone, World Bank, Boema Kamara, African Union, Samuel Tue, sanctioned.
You like it? my tabata is when I read at the University of Liberia, nothing against the university, I still want to even get my bachelor from there, but they are offering PhD.
With masters, professors,
PhD, and the PhD, they are in
Why is there a tabata?
Yeah, it's a tabata. For me, it's a
what?
Yeah,
Why?
I'm coming to that. You didn't ask Tubman why when he was. I don't think the university is even qualified to offer a good master degree program at this point.
It's a bachelor degree.
I didn't want to be that harsh.
I was teaching, so I know.
Yeah, I taught there for 6 years.
And now they are offering PhD in the two areas we are performing the worst: education and health, public health.
Biomedical science.
I mean, science. There's even CNA in this country, the books you read, CNA. And you are talking about biomedical sciences, epidemiology, biostatistics. So I believe this is complete tabata. And then teachers, our schools, the curriculum has so much problem down there. And you are saying you're going to give PhD?
No, that doesn't mean it's a misreading of a doctoral education, though. That doesn't mean because the system has problem, the governance system, therefore you cannot produce.
You said the governance system, the school system.
Yeah, the school system, part of the government, public services, providing services, the health and all of that. That's what I mean.
No, I'm talking about the education. I'm not talking about.
Dennis, please let me learn then.
But you didn't let me learn my tabata. But go ahead.
You're not jacking Dennis tabata. I don't know why you
it's controversial. It's something that touches my heart. Higher education.
But let me learn first. Let me learn first.
Let me go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Anthony doesn't want me to talk tonight, so go for it, Dennis.
No, go ahead, Mr. Sully, if I finish.
No, I'm just issuing caution here. I get your point. The University of Liberia is very weak since the war ended. Is very weak. Even the bachelor degree that they're granting, Dr. Duke said, I thought that in the graduate program, some of my students, I don't want to go. Yeah, the challenges are there, but I just don't want you to equate graduate education to what the expectations are for service provision in the country. There are trained, educators who have doctoral level education who could guide a graduate program of this nature.
I don't believe so.
I know. Tabata is not for debate.
Some tabatas are controversial, so you got to at least so that we don't create that impression out there.
Dennis, can I provide some information on your tabata? I know you know because your tabata is based on what is available to you, but I know a little thing that I know this. Because I worked with a graduate school for some time when I was doing my contract in Liberia. I know this PhD program in education administration has been, in the background, people have been working with it. I think University of Ibadan, if I'm not making a mistake, there is a university in Nigeria that should be working with the university. And I think they might second professors and what have you on that. And the other one with biostatistics, There is a USAID program for building capacity in the health.
Anyway,
I think it is either University of Massachusetts, but it's based in Massachusetts. There's a university.
you don't have a strong bachelor degree
no,
program. You don't have a strong master degree program. You say you're doing PhD.
Let me finish on this. Dennis, I will tell you this now.
Yeah, I want us to break in the colors.
Dennis, your sabotage should not be for debates.
But there's a very important information. Take, for example, FMTP, Financial Management Training Program. I was one of the directors there, okay? That program was being financed by the World Bank, and we brought in some professors from Ghana and Liberians mixed, and our graduates were performing out there when they went out to work because they were being trained exactly on what they're going to do in the different ministries, right? PPCC law, PFN law, I mean, in addition to all academic stuff. But the program in public health at the university, the College of Health Sciences, was started with USAID grant.
Yeah.
There are millions of dollars there.
Dennis,
They're just expanding that project.
Dennis,
that's all.
Dennis, what are you doing?
Professors are going to come from Massachusetts.
Yeah, Mr. Gongo, let me bring in the colors.
Yes.
To me, that's really Tabata. But let bring in the colors now.
It's a big Tabata, big one.
Livingstone, go ahead. Mr. Livingstone, you are first. Go ahead. Aliu.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is Aliu still living?
Yeah, you know, the worst critic that anyone can ever have is the one closest to them. So please allow me to help my brother Anthony just a little bit, okay? First of all, let me say thanks to Ahmed and Thomas for actually continuing Anthony. I think these random things you can just be discussing without any basis. It's not correct. And you gotta pick up from stuff like guys like Thomas, who can give you event, they can give you time, they can give you detail of what they know. That'll make you a better political analyst. So this is what I suggest. On the hour of politics, you need to bring people on to counter-argue you so that at least you can get much better than this. Because I watched your hour of politics on Amara Corner the other day. I was at my job sitting behind the desk. My supervisor was confused. The guy was just laughing. You were entertaining. What's happening, man? You used to be one of the best. What's going on? You're losing it. But anyways.
I know, because anything against Boakai and what you say. So I get it. Go ahead.
No. But this is my suggestion to my network. And there are actually two shows. Actually, not just Anthony. Even that show you call the Liberia History Channel. You need somebody there to counter-argue. But here's what I have to say. When you say that Joseph Boakai has no record, you can't speak like that. Do you know his record? It's clear you don't know him. If you know him, you would not say he has no record. There's nobody who can work for 40 years anyway that has no record. But listen, it has been a wonderful show. I just want to say again, it's great to criticize Joe Boakai. But one of the reasons why Joe Boakai is not coming to our network is the constant pounding on him without any facts. And people in Joseph Boakai camp do watch the show. So it makes it difficult for him to come on the show because then he lost credibility. That show lost credibility in his eyes.
No.
We saw him go to ELPC. ELPC is very critical of him. We saw him go to the channel, the True FM. That channel is very critical of him. He go to places, but he wouldn't come to focus on Liberia because of these kinds of stuff.
Okay.
But we're hoping that he delivers. We're hoping that he does well. We want the criticism to continue, but we want it to be positive on the basis of what we know and not just assuming a talking point because we see them on social media.
Right.
Yeah.
We are not surprised. He doesn't go anywhere. He goes to partisan media. So, Leo Johnson, go ahead, Leo.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Leo Johnson calling from Canada. I just want to chime in a little bit. When I heard my brother Kelly Bo talking about you can collect taxes to raise $1 billion in Liberia, how in a country where, let's say, no more than 20% of the population has any stable jobs or income, there's no way the Ministry of Finance doesn't even know who sells in red light market or in waterside market. Only 20% of our economy is accounted for. how can you, in the midst of that kind of abject poverty, talk about we can pump up more revenue just from taxes? Unless where you're telling me you want to raise taxes to 80% on the 25%, that actually have some sort of type of stable income that you can count on to be able to actually do that. And number two, taxation is not progressive policy. So for us to be using taxation, I think is worrisome. I also want to throw in a little bit before I close on the UL situation. It's a joke for anybody to sit there and say, USAID, here your money, this person do this. UL is not even qualified, does not have the facility, nor the resources, nor the faculty. How many faculty members are you publishing any academic journal annually like it's supposed to actually be? None. You don't have what it takes to even issue a bachelor's degree. You don't have it. So it's the greatest deception of our time to be issuing degrees at UL when the people feeling to go say in real market, people memorize and actually pass. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All participants are muted.
Let me bring
and they
in
can unmute themselves.
Flomo Livingstone and then Elvis, and then we close. Flomo.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. Great show today. Great show. Let me see it. You said your brother has no record, but according to you, you've been working in the government for over 40 years with no record.
No record of something, not no record. But go ahead.
But I mean, people on your panel, they give me some records like when you work as the agriculture minister. The records are there, and all settlers in workers. So the fact is there. I mean, again, the justice Scott, for me, that case was temporary because the lead prosecutor was removed from that case because he went and visited the juror, which was, I think, that temporary case. The case because he went there at 8:30 in the night and they removed him from the case and they fined him $200. So for me, the jury is coming to I think he tempered with the case. I think it should be a retrial in my own opinion. I have a question for Mr. Kelbo Gongo. Do he mind? Can he give us the receipt of he paying taxes for United Party time? Also now all his property saying he really doing United Party time. Does he have a receipt to show to us?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Elvis, you are the last caller. Go ahead, Elvis. Elvis, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. John. Look, I just want to applaud, and hello to the panelists. I want to applaud Mr. Sia tonight. Sometimes when we're on these shows, and it seems like everybody is against you, and you're the only one that have the bravery to speak the truth, it must be applauded. These are the same Unity Party people who support Unity Party people, Unity Party. When they're ready to catch the gay president, it's like an echo chamber. Everybody is singing the same tune. The moment somebody, criticize Boakai, they're all ready to jump on that person. But don't worry, it'll be here for 6 years. We'll be on Boakai still. But lastly, I think my tabata that I heard tonight, and no offense to you, Mr. Salih, but I think it came from Mr. Salih, because I said the same thing in the comment, which is the paper tiger government of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who was being upheld by the international community. Mr. Sirleaf made the same suggestion that Boakai should go to the international community to help him with the budget in the first, few months.
In the short term, yeah.
Yeah, imagine that. We had never had that help. He did all this budget by himself with internal revenue, but he's asking the international government to help, with payroll. That's why the people even gave we had a suggestion for the harmonization, because they knew we'll have a hard time without cutting, down some of those overpayment was making the certain or official of government.
Thank you.
But overall, I think Boakai coming in, I was hoping that he was going to get the money from the MCC. That's fell out the window. I was hoping that he was going to have a good start, but that's that's not looking too good. So all the smart people that Unity Party people, government, let them come up with ingenuity on how to raise money. I think cutting waste is another opportunity. But all the smart guys, I think they're coming back. We want to see them do the magic. We're watching. We're sitting and watching keenly. Thank you for taking my call. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Darling, you have 30 seconds because we are out of time. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I think Mr. Boakai, what he can do to be able to pay salary for the first few months is to reduce the size of government. The government is too huge. The wage bill is just outrageous. And those guys are the legislature who are changing cars every 3 years. Why in their private life, when in their private life, when they changing cars, some of them even have bicycle tires? Why should we be buying crash car for these people? Buying gas or giving them gas coupon? I think that's waste.
Thank you.
So we can actually get money. We can be able to govern our resources right within the budget. And one last thing. Mr. Boakai needs to be serious. That whole promise he's making about in the first 100 days, you will make sure no car gets stuck in mud and all of that. Those are not realistic. The problem that he's going to be ushered on the 22nd of January is humongous. And I will say this to be on record for that. Those guys at the legislature, I live in the state of Massachusetts. I don't know about other states. Most of the guys you find at the Capitol building, the job they do at the Capitol building is a part-time job for them. We are talking about lawyers and doctors. But in our country, Liberia, those guys on Capitol building, those are full-time jobs. They came from nowhere, and they think they have come to like get rich. Like the way you should have in South Africa doing the apartheid system. I don't get rich quick or grab or take where you get eating. And I think it's wrong.
Thank you, darling.
It's not a place for people to get rich.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the end of our callers tonight.
Yeah, but honest, I like to, because I think the callers actually came after me. So I need to make comment.
Nobody went after you. Just,
no.
Do 1 minute.
No, I can guarantee that. First, let me just say this. The only person that I know here will speak to that probably is Thomas. If there's someone else you can speak to that. When you go to pay your real estate tax, you don't just go there and say, "Oh, I got a house or in Soniwan and I can." No, they actually send agent to your location. You have to show your land deed. You will take the picture. They look at the year your deed was probated. They start to bill you from that moment. What year you purchase the undeveloped land, there is a tax bracket for that. They develop, when you build a house, there is a tax bracket for that. Okay, if it is a commercial or residential, so you go through all that before they even give you a bill. They give you your TIN number before you even go to generate. So I want to let Livingstone know that I went through this. So I'm not making up stuff. Okay, so then let me just quickly speak to Leo. Leo and I can have conversation beyond this show. You know, the whole thing to say LU is not qualified to give degree, undergraduate degree. I think that's a sweeping statement. I would say that without any doubt. You know, let us not just outrightly reject others. I mean, we can't say on one hand we get aid from World Bank or other institutions. USAID has actually been doing great capacity building projects in Liberia. In Liberia, the College of Surgeons and Physicians, if you hear that today there are more specialists in the healthcare field in Liberia, it is through the College of Surgeons and Physicians. They train them, they go to Ghana or Nigeria or Togo and take the West African fellowship test, and they pass it. In fact, most of them, 96% of them who leave the training in Liberia, they go to pass this test. It is through USAID grant, through World Bank, they started that training program because they realized that Liberia did not have many specialists. So they started that local training, saying it's expensive to train doctors overseas. It's through USAID. At the university, the College of
Health, call that shot now.
It's USAID money, and it's doing well. Okay,
maybe Matabata will be another topic.
And they got foreign professors.
Yeah, Kalebo, we get that one.
Yeah, we can.
Thank you, Thomas. You wanted to respond quickly?
Yeah, just quickly. I mean, to say that we did not get any external support is not true. I think even with the MCC that you see, we are passing today, is because of the IMF program. When the IMF program came, it did not only increase our reserve, it also injected some funds in our national budget process. They got it. And then when COVID came, the special drawing rights, Liberia also got some money from there. So this is why you see it is all of these funds that came through that you see that our budget grew from where Mananseli left here around 500 million to 600 million. It grew to almost 800 million. Now that all of these resource envelopes are now available, the budget has drastically dropped to where it should be based on our domestic revenue. So anybody going around to say, okay, we are denying any support, we are denying any support, it's not true. The other point I wanted to make is that in terms of taxes, if you look at the composition of taxes that the LRA collects at the national level, property taxes is a minute portion. It's a minute portion of very negligible. It's hardly 1%. In fact, under the local government law, property taxes should now be the source of revenue for local government, except that Monrovia as a capital city is under the national government. So I think this is a sector we need to develop, but if you look at the magnitude of resources that we need to move the budget forward, property taxes is not going to be one of them. I don't know why Leo was talking about that. I mean, the tax system is not progressive. The tax system is progressive in nature. When you pay high amount, you pay. And I mean, the informality is there, but we still extract resources. So what we need to do, grow the economy, increase the formal sector, and we still be able to collect. And also people think that because there's an informal economy, people don't pay taxes. It's not true. Every time you have a transaction with the formal system, even if you are in the informal sector, you then pay taxes because when you come and buy and sell in the formal sector. So I think there's a lot of work that the new government needs to do. I will expect that budget to be re-looked at, look at the different sources, talk to international development agents. We are not the only people getting money from the international development community. If we can get help from them, let's get it and be able to build the system to generate revenue.
You can do your closing now since you are on the floor.
Yeah, so I mean, I just responded. I mean, we spoke about breaking news and all of that, but I think it was a good show, and I'll just stop here.
Thank you. Dr. Dugley, your closing, sir.
Yes, I think that, for all of these things, I don't know much about budget and all. I think since the war, I remember from the interim government of Dr. Sawyer till this government, every government administration that came in brought new people. So they keep piling them up in ministries. So we went from 19,000 at the time of the coup d'etat, now you're talking about 60,000 people working in a small government. So if Boakai really can do that, is like slash that size of the government, raise taxes as it should be 100%. Can he do that? I think that's a bigger challenge. You take 20, instead of spending $30 million a month, you say, okay, let's borrow $15, $20 million and pay off a lot of people and let them retire and go into the private sector and just keep the minimum we need to run the government. And down the line, you will reduce your payroll. And then you have just the people you need to work with. I say I'm not a budget person. I just have this, idea.
Yeah, and you are a budget person because you do budget every day, Mr. Dr. Dugley. So you are.
Thank you.
Yeah. What you get, don't borrow if you can pay.
No, but and also Anthony, I could have responded to you, but I think we're talking at two different levels. You were talking about your perception. I was talking about you cannot judge something that has not happened yet. That's why I said no, we cannot. There's no need to discuss that because you had your own perception of Boakai. And my thing is, until somebody's sitting in a chair, you can't prejudge their actions. That's why I say no, there's no need to do it because we're talking at two different levels.
Thank you. Mr. Sia, you're closing.
Dennis, thank you. Ahmed, Mr. Calabo, Ganglo, Thomas, Dr. Dude, great show. The apologies of Unity Party and the fanatics of Mr. Boakai, they will come after me always. And I'm the guy who has thick skin. You know what they do. This is tough talking Thursday. When I come here, I come talk tough for our country. These jokes that people do around here have not helped us. And our leaders really need to get serious. There are some things, what I said, my premise here has been Mr. Boakai does not have a history of shaking tables. And I want those who believe that he has been to prove it wrong. But this is what Mr. Boakai can do to shake tables. I want the incoming government to eliminate buying cars for government officials, with the exception of maybe president, the vice president, maybe the judges, but ministers who are making money. Here's the thing, Dennis. Somebody working at Ministry of Information making $45 US and sometimes $2,000 Liberian dollars. They get to work. And then the finance minister, we are buying him car, and all the ministers will buy. If Boakai can issue or try to find a way to eliminate that, then he would be shaking table. Maybe that should be an easier one for the president. I really want to see that. I also want to see the other thing we talk about. Mr. Boakai has an opportunity to do so. I hope that he will do it, except that I doubt, right? My doubt that he will be able to do it can't stop him. So for people to think that I'm being negative here, I really don't get it. And, so great show. We want the president to succeed. I have mentioned instances that Boakai has done well. No one came after me. The likes of Aliu and other people who say I'm gonna grow up, and well, I'm growing up. That's why it's getting to them. And maybe I should be here quite too often to do this and make them uneasy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salif.
Yeah, 2 areas quickly. So, Dennis, about your Tabata, I'm sorry that I jumped in there, but it's not really a Tabata. Yes, I know about high quality doctoral study. I'm a world top research University of Minnesota. You can get it better than that. Maybe you want to talk about Ivy League school, but when it comes to research, and while Leo was talking about academic research journal and things like that, yes. My point was, and I've taught at the University of Liberia, I volunteered 6 years. I was teaching there, so I saw the problems, I saw the challenges, I saw the inadequacy at all levels, from undergraduate to the graduate programs they have there. Some of them, let me just say there are serious challenges. Okay. But this is a national institution, the national university. To shoot it down that it is so qualified, or that this doctoral program, to me, in a way, you are equating it to Liberians who are trained, have gone through other international world universities, and gone through the rigors of academic training, who have sat on committees, who have published in research, published research journal and peer reviewed and things like that. I have gone through it. I have no others who have. There are Liberians in Liberia with PhD who have gone through it. So my point was, you could raise an inaugural faculty from Liberia and or among Liberians. That's my point. As a country, I don't think it's wrong to begin to think, if we're pushing to shake tables, maybe we should deconstruct tables and begin to reconstruct tables and think big and ambitiously. And I'm all about thinking big and ambitiously. If you want to think big and ambitiously, I think we shouldn't just dismiss it. We should look at it and try to see how this could be a credible program. To that point, that's what I wanted to say.
Mr. Saliva, what are the programs that will be feeding into that program? Because since we have, bad high school will make bad bachelor programs, and so
Dennis, the University of Liberia, institutions in Liberia. Thomas sitting here went to one of the local universities in Liberia. I've seen young people who have gone through the University of Liberia, who have applied themselves, who have gone through AMEU, UMU, and so on, have come outside and gone to world-class university, John Hopkins, Columbia, and so on. Thomas is an example. These young people, it's about, yes, the institution. You see, education also it has the question about what role does education play in society. We have assumptions about education and so forth and so on. What feeds into it? There are, yes, look, our education system will feed into it, from high school, undergraduate, other various universities. People from other countries around the region will come to Liberia. I'm not saying it's going to be the best. Look, I've seen some professors who didn't know what they were doing. They weren't supposed to even be teaching undergraduate, and there they were teaching people master's degrees and so on. I've seen some master's degree students didn't qualify to be proper undergraduate students. So I recognize that. However, I'm saying there are Liberians who have gone abroad and other places in the region, are very well thoroughly trained, are well published, who can guide, and students could study under anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I came from anyway school, where we're dusty, where even the jikers are in the classroom. But join us this Sunday. We're going to be talking about higher education, moving Liberia forward, and we're going to be talking about higher education. Dr. Edison Pajiwo and Dr. George Williams will be my guests. You don't want to miss it. And we will discuss that. Like, it's a Gonglo. You're closing, sir.
I'll premise my closing on Dr. Do Edda statement on what Boakai would do. Dr. Do said the presidency is an institution. He said you get to the presidency, and when you look at your student in the street, and it has the chance to shift your focus. If you look, there's something in Raleigh or West Point, there's demonstration, or there is disaster in Norway camp, or something is happening in Makedu, or something like that. And if you don't have focus, the whole program is gone. You get in a reaction mode. So I think we need to watch out for that, because there are a lot of stuff that will be happening next year. We have to fight. It will take a firm, a statement engagement of the public, because we went through an electoral process that the country was split in the middle, almost evenly split. We have to learn how to manage the public space. If we don't do that, I think there is a huge potential that the new government could lose focus and start more or less reacting to different situations, and in 2 years is gone. And I think, listening to Dr. Du, I think Boakai, people should watch out, and Boakai himself should watch out for that. Otherwise, he could be addressing issues not related to his platform for maybe 3 or 4 years. I will end my statement on that.
Thank you. Another issue that we didn't discuss that we wanted to also look at is the challenge of protestation, right? The people were protesting on the CDC government. I mean, June 7, you name it. And we was credited for tolerating protest. So now these guys are going to be in the, they're out of job. The Jefferson Koji, they are Carlos Gray. So, I mean, protests, and some of them, like, they are in the water already. I mean, it can get worse than that. So they will be living on protest. How will Boakai be able to handle that? Well, he said, because it will come to a point like people will just protest. Even when you're going to drink water, they protest. And by the time you say anything, they say, oh, the CDC tolerated, you should. So it's something to look for too. And this is just part one. We're going to still be discussing the role ahead of President Boakai in the days and weeks ahead. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I want to thank our viewers, and want to thank even those who will watch later. Until then, we close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians.